we're very likely to have a close match, right? The one where the higher rated classical player gets off to a lead, but then the higher rated blitz player can come back.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, usually it is like this, that the higher rated classical player should be, okay, probably not in the game or in the match between Bibizarra and Humpy. I'm not sure how the different three categories were scored in that match, but usually I would assume that the higher rated classical player should be superior in the longest time control, which is the 5+1 section.
But it's still very fast. And I know Deysi Cori actually beat Valentina in order to get her spot in one of the most thrilling qualifiers, as it went to the absolute distance, forcing Valentina to play all night to get her spot. So that was a very exciting match. Let's take a look at our invited players. We have the greatest female players in the world. Ho Yifan is in the mix. Humpy Canero already out, despite being the second rated player in the world among active women players. Katerina Lana, what a fantastic blitz player. Anna Muzichuk. We have Li Tingye Kostyanyuk already out. Antoaneta Stefanova vying to continue in the competition today. And Irina Krush from the United States, my friend, is going to be playing her match, I think, tomorrow. And we're going to take a little break as we get the players set up to start the very first game of the Women's Speed Chess Championships match between Stefanova and Cori. Stay with us. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Jennifer Shahadi. I'm here with Elizabeth Bates, and our game is about to get started. I think it did start. Here it is. Wow. Okay. Well, we're starting off with the Queen's Gambit, Elizabeth.
I think now it already become a Slav. And Antoaneta is black because I was already wondering what she was doing with white. But Slav is her main repertoire, and she played it all her life long. And the E3 line, oh, it will be the Maran system. Knight f3. The Shepanenko system. Now I can talk again because I used to play it as well. The idea of a6 is basically to, first of all, wait. Second of all, there are sometimes plans, for example, if bishop d3, there are plans with d takes c4, bishop takes c4, and b5. That's why a6 is already supporting basically the push of b5. And okay, queen c2 is also clever in terms of waiting. And now I think they will play knight bd7 if I'm not mistaken. That should be the main move. But I remember Antoaneta playing this line quite a lot of time, beating players like Conneru in very good classical games. So she's very experienced in that particular variation.
Yeah, so she's stuck with a lot of her openings for many years, as well as some of her other habits, Elizabeth. You were just telling me that she really likes to stick with the same drink and will go to great lengths to get it.
Yes. I have known Antoaneta, I would believe, for over 20 years, maybe even more than that, 25. And I have seen her in no single tournament without her Coca-Cola. And I remember once we played in the deserts of Siberia in Krasnotarinsk, and the organizers went 500 kilometers just to get her Coca-Cola because in that particular place, they only offered Pepsi. And she taught them a lesson that Pepsi is absolutely something different from Coca-Cola. So that was something I still remember. So that drink is super important for her.
Yeah, she has her routine in the opening and in her life. So Antoaneta Stefanova, she has a very high blitz rating, but you mentioned before we started that you thought Deysi might have a little bit of an edge once we get to the super fast time controls. But right here.
In the 5+1, as I already said, I believe that usually, of course there are exceptions, but the higher rated classical player or the stronger classical player, and Antoaneta is objectively stronger than Deysi Cori in the classical chess, at least by ranking and rating, and also by experience and success. So I would believe that those players who are superior in the classics, they should be also superior in the 5+1, or this is their best chance. The shorter the time control, the less you can use the fact that you are superior in knowledge, understanding, and the basics of strategy. But in the longer time controls, you can make use of it.
But Deysi, of course, a great player as well. Antoaneta is a former women's world champion, so she's got into the pinnacle of women's chess. She won that title, and in this particular position, Elizabeth, who do you prefer to play? I mean, at some point, White might take on c5 and play against this pawn on d5, right? And in those types of positions with the isolated pawn, do you prefer being the player with the isolated pawn or the one playing against it?
That's a very good question because, okay, both of these, basically you have to be either a player who likes to take risks or you are the player who likes basically the positional edge. So playing with an isolated pawn just means that you have much more dynamics and you have very good piece activity. But the disadvantage is, however, like if those activity manners are not working out in future, you end up with the isolated pawn, and that is a true weakness the more pieces are exchanged. So playing with the isolated pawn means like playing for the attack, using the fact that there are open files. Here it is a C file and E file, which is open. And of course, the general dynamics, but you better don't change pieces. The more you change, the more the D5 pawn is getting weak.
That's right. And that's why it's nice in this position that Antoaneta has every single one of her minor pieces still on the board. But after knight c5, of course, that could change as now the knight could capture on e6. But that was of all Black's pieces the least favorite. And now we have a very interesting structure where the isolated pawn is no longer, right? Now it's defended by this pawn on e6. And we're going to have to find out whether after castling, this open F file plays to black's advantage or whether these pawn weaknesses hurt her in some way. I mean, I kind of like black now. I feel like this is an easier position to play in a blitz game potentially as black because there's nice activity. And now we don't even have to worry about this pawn.
Yes, you're right about it. Actually, I had this position on the board in my game, if I'm not mistaken, against Shavakishvili in a classical game. And the variation with knight a4, knight c5 is not the main line. The main line goes with rook d1, taking early pressure on d5. And there are some kind of repetitions connected with knight b4, queen d2. But this idea with knight a5, knight c5 usually doesn't give any advantage to white, at least according to modern theory. And this line, as you already pointed out perfectly right, is just very easy to play for black. We play against the bishop pair, but the bishop on c1 is yet not developed. And the ideas of black are quite easy. You go short castle, maybe you have something like knight e4, or just doubling on the f file. But your center is very strong, it can't be attacked. So actually, like, it's rather easy for black to play.
Oh, and look at the time difference. 1 minute for Deysi, Cori, and over 3 for Antoaneta. So I'm really feeling very optimistic about Antoaneta's chances here as Antoaneta just played rook c8, opening the, not opening the file, but rather looking down the barrel of the queen here. And now she's lashed out, opening up the center with e5 in less than 50 seconds for Deysi, Cori.
Yes, that's probably like, I mean, I'm actually surprised because Antoaneta had many games in the Stepanenko system. If Deysi had prepared beforehand or not, because if she had, then this wouldn't have come as anything special because it's one of Antoaneta's main lines. But the line with queen c2, I mean, if you play with queen c2, then you have to be aware of the c5 push and you better learn the theory because especially in blitz, you should play structures you are familiar with and not something new because you don't have the feeling. So playing blitz games is a totally different issue than playing classical games. You better know what you do or you have experience. That's very important in the quick time controls.
Now, bishop a3 actually surprises me a little. Like, I thought that black would have wanted to keep pieces on the board, but I get that maybe she didn't think the bishop on d6 was that good. I don't know. I find that a little surprising. But remember, white did have the 2 bishops. So by trading one of them, you know, and the very strong one on b2, that might have been Antoaneta's concept. But I did like the bishop on d6 because it gave these possibilities of maybe playing e4 and creating an attack.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So to me, white's position seems a little bit more comfortable now than it did before, just because it's a little easier to play. The queen is like really nicely tucked away. It's a cool thing for a queen to be active and not be in any danger of getting tempoed. And that definitely describes this queen right here.
Yes, you're right. Actually, I also don't like bishop a3. Okay, if you play against the bishop pair, the rule is to cut off the bishop. But now comes the counter rule. If you play with space advantage, then you shouldn't change pieces. And having these 2 hanging pawns actually means you have space advantage. So here's rule against rule, but probably keeping the bishop and creating a battery with bishop b8, queen d6 was much more inconvenient or unpleasant for white. Now white, at least tactically speaking, she doesn't have to worry much on the king side.
Yeah, and she played this move h3 to stop the very irritating knight g4 ideas. And the problem is black doesn't have a way. If we had a dark squared bishop, when you make the move h3, you create all sorts of problems for yourself because then it's harder to play g3. But since we don't have that dark squared bishop, white does seem quite solid with this defensive concept she came up with. And it's also a little easier for her to make moves, but still over a minute extra for Antoaneta. So I'm still taking black all day due to the time situation.
Yes, black is still having the more pleasant position actually because of the space advantage. But yes, it was, as you pointed out, yeah, now not that hard anymore for white compared to.
Watch out. Cheapo time. Knight f3 check is a threat. So she's going to have to play like queen d4 or something like that.
But f2 is hanging actually. It's already a little bit tricky. You have to
yeah, that's true. Wait, you're right. What were we able to do there? Were we? I mean, she's allowing queen takes f2, but did white have a move? I mean,
yes, white had a move, king h1. prophylactical, because queen takes f2. Now I can respond probably with queen takes e5 or rook f1 ideas, but probably like queen takes e5. But now, of course, playing what she did with queen d2 wasn't helping much.
No, not at all. Because there's no way to do anything fancy here. This pawn on b5 is protected by the knight on b6. We can't play queen d4 because our bishop hangs.
Here, for example, yeah, queen g3 is an easy one. Another good move could be something like king h7 or king h8 to go out of any potential checks on d5. But
now rook f2 and knight f3 look very dangerous. I mean, how do you stop these mating ideas? Well, rook f2, if you play bishop f1, I have knight f3, right? So you have to play rook g1 at some point.
Yes, I mean, rook f6 is a very safe move. I think Antoaneta doesn't want to calculate, so now she plays with king h7, the very prophylactical approach. But of course, you're right. At some point, knight f3 might be an issue, but now she's playing positional, which is fine too, because e3 is gone.
And she won on time, and Antoaneta takes the lead in the match with the black pieces, starting off strong. Stefanova, as we get to see a Scandinavian. And this is something Antoaneta plays as well, right?
Not really. Antoaneta usually plays against e4 only Rui Lopez and sometimes Caracan. And the funny part is, like, she's not a born e4 player. Usually she plays d4 all her life. But now she goes for e4, where she's much less experienced. It's a surprising idea, or like a surprising fact for me. But the line actually which Deysi chooses with a6, knight c6, bishop g4 is quite dangerous, especially in blitz. You need to know the theory here. Until now, everything was correctly done.
Oh, it's actually, I played this line against Stefanova when she was black and I was white, but it was so many years ago. And also I fianchettoed my bishop. I lost the game, but I got a pretty decent position. But I apparently, I made a big impression from her, because now decades later, she's also playing the G3 against the Scandinavian.
Yeah, but in this line, yes, g3 was main, but g4 and bishop e3 is already like out of the main road. The main line is castle, long castle, bishop f4, queen b4, and this is super, super dangerous, this cool variation. But this variation now for black is absolutely fine. Black has no worries, because black can push, I mean, not push, but hit d4. Maybe sometimes there's h5, g5 ideas, but the other line was a critical one. That's why usually black doesn't play this variation anymore. But here, there are not big issues, at least.
I still tend to like white, because this bishop is so strong, and it looks like she's gearing up to castle queenside herself, which of course makes the position a little less interesting. Now, notice though, you got to be careful about knight b4, right? So if white were to queenside castle and doesn't have a good response to knight b4, that could be an issue. We could probably get away with knight e1, but she has to keep all that in mind.
So now, yes, I mean, like, I have the impression that Antoaneta plays very, very safe, especially in blitz, which is a good thing, not to cause messes. Here for black, I think the best plan would be to play e6, and after long castle, queen b4, queen a5, and getting some bishop maybe to b4 and play on the square d5 and e4. So we have to change the knight on c3, which is typical in the Scandinavian, bringing the bishop to b4. So that could be a good plan for black, at least. That's what I would do.
So black, again, getting into big time pressure. She's got to not do that, because it really did not work out for her last game. I mean, she even lost on time. So yeah, that is going to be dangerous if she continues along that line.
Yeah, I mean, probably she's searching for a plan, and I would bet that Cori plays again a variation which she is not so much experienced with. And I think in blitz, this is a very dangerous thing to do, because you can see now the time management is clearly not in Cori Deysi's favor. And for this reason, well, time matters, I believe, at the end of the story.
Yeah, this is a really unpromising start. And she's played knight to e4. Okay, let's see. I noticed that the bar does not like that move at all. So What is there a tactical issue here? Let's see.
Well, I'm thinking if you can play something like knight h4 doesn't work yet, but something knight takes e4, there's also no tactical means. I'm not sure there's any tactics here.
Maybe it's just knight takes e4 and yeah, I don't see tactics either because we probably want to take on e4 though, because we don't really want to allow knight takes e3. Maybe after knight takes e4, it's simply a matter of having fewer problems and just being able to
save the diagonal, actually.
Castle and just play c4 and d5. Knight h4 she plays. Okay.
That makes more sense because you keep the control of the e4 square. That's why actually knight takes e4, bishop takes e4 shouldn't even be considered, because the bishop on e4 would be very annoying guarding the diagonal.
Yeah.
And knight h4 is, from the positional point of view, the right choice.
I like it too.
Yeah.
I like it too, because at first I was thinking knight takes c3, but then and black still might do that. But the problem with knight c3, pawn c3 is, white hasn't castled yet. And now, of course, she's going to castle kingside, and the b file will be of great value, right? So if we had already been castled queenside, this would be terrible because black would be coming in with a queen a3 with a thud. But we're castling kingside now, and you're actually having some problems on both sides of the board potentially. But rook b1 with that bishop on g2, it's a juicy rook.
e5 makes sense because, one rule, king in the center, you should open. But I think I can simply ignore it and even now consider, knight takes g6 is in any case not a bad move. But rook b1, in any case, we can play rook b1 nevertheless, because even if you take on d4, you cannot take with a knight because of b7, at least I believe that would be highly. But d5 actually is, positionally speaking, not a good choice because you had a trump card on the bishop's diagonal. Yeah. And now you lose it, because actually I don't like the move d5 at all.
It makes me sad, yes, because this bishop is so beautiful, such a great attacking piece. And we've cut it off, which should help black. Just kind of goes to show how forcey moves are really good if you're starting the game. But the stronger you get, the more sometimes they mislead you. And Deysi simply went back with the knight. Okay, I guess she's hoping to reconfigure it on d7, c5 at the right moment. And now I'm sure Antoaneta was hoping to just, run the table with c4, c5, and that's why she did this.
No, but I mean, like, d5 is, positionally speaking, a very, very dubious choice. But I think, as I said before, Antoaneta tries to play very, very, very safe and avoids any kind of tactical issues or calculations. That's at least my impression. That's why d5 closes the position, so you don't need to calculate. But on the other hand, now life becomes much easier for black indeed.
And black has play of her own. I mean, this move f5 is an excellent one, kind of, giving some questions to this bishop. I wonder, I guess her thought was that she wasn't ready to play f4 yet, because it would just give this square to white, and white could easily just back up the bishop.
I think I can even go bishop a7, which is a very tricky move.
Yeah, I was looking at that too, bishop a7. Not that we'd ever want to take on b8, but it would stop you from being able to like trap us with b6, because then we could take on b8 and a6. Okay, so now Antoaneta has decided to double her rooks. She's still got double the time of Deysi. So even if we don't like the move d5, I mean, guys, she's up a whole minute. She's got over twice as much time as Cori. That's what it's all about in Blitz.
Yes, you have to be clever with the time management. And I think here Deysi should try something. I mean, f4 I don't like, because anyway, bishop a7 is one of the moves which I want to play. So she should try to, instead playing of f4 and closing the chance to open the h-file ever, she should have tried something with e4, but maybe in a prophylactical manner. Now I believe actually the position becomes very easy for white again. Even so, well, this has some tactical tricks we don't see, but I'm not sure there is.
Bishop a7, look at that. It's a fun move. Just trying to put the bishop in front of the pawn and then play potentially for c4, c5 one day if we can ever get it in. f3, what is that move? Let's see. She's got some ideas. She probably wants to like I don't know. Does she want to try to trap the bishop after queen takes f3? If bishop takes f3, rook takes h3. So that's clear. That is part of her idea. So you don't want to take with the bishop. But after queen takes, oh, Antoaneta did take with the bishop. Okay.
Yeah.
She just thought this pawn is no big deal.
Well, I mean, the bishop on g2 is a very good protecting piece. So now actually b7 is lost. And the question is who's made first, but I would bet it's rather to be white who has the more
that's right.
tactical chances.
Yeah. Okay. It's knight takes g4. Bishop. I was looking at the move bishop h3 because I just really want to get on the light squares.
And I think it could work actually. What is the defense after bishop h3?
Yeah, but white won anyway. Queen e4. Also trying to I think get into the white square somehow. And there it is. 2-0 start by Antoaneta Stefanova. As a commentator, I'm hoping for Cori to get on the scoreboard so that we can have a really tight match. Let's see if this is the game where she can do it. She's got to speed up.
Yes, that's for sure. She's playing objectively too slow, and you will need that time sooner or later.
Yeah, Antoaneta is playing very good blitz. It's interesting how a lot of times it's the strategic players who have an edge in blitz because they just, they know how to get a good position that they can just make moves in and, not like some crazy tactical melee they have to calculate. So Antoaneta is really showing her power in this match so far.
Yes, she's basically using one principle: avoid complications, playing safe and quick. And this is a very good principle. It's a very good strategy, especially against players who are by knowledge weaker. And I would dare to say that Antoaneta, since she is a very experienced former world champion player, she is superior in the understanding issues.
I think so. I mean, I think she's a great positional player. So I think that this strategy is really smart. And here she's playing bishop h3, trying to trade those light squared bishops off and take away the best defender of the white king.
It's funny because white actually has a position which Antoaneta also had a couple of times. We had blitz games where I was black and she had it with white. So she's familiar in this kind of structure from the white's point of view. Seeing her now with black for me is almost like a small surprise. But yeah, the position is quite, let's say, balanced and without any dynamics. So it's easy to play.
Yeah, now white plays knight to d2 at some point. She's looking to expand. c4 looks like an attractive way to expand your position. Stick a rook on c1 and play for c4. And meanwhile, what's black's plan, Elizabeth?
I think that one idea could be to fight for the square on e5. So you can consider to capture, and actually that's what she did. Improving, white's pawn structure is not that great. And here, maybe already this works. I can play knight f3, I believe. I know.
But maybe you just keep piling up on it with queen c7.
Queen c7, and if I go queen d4, is it that bad? I mean, it looks suspicious, I agree, but probably it's still fine. But I cannot play f4 because of queen b6. At least it looks not like a good way of continuation. So I think knight f3 is almost forced. Or e4, actually.
Yeah, I like knight f3 because there's also the idea of knight g5, right? So maybe queen c7, knight g5 would have been even better. It created some issues tactically, but e4 also a good idea because it's opening that rook on e1, or was trying to at least. But Antoaneta plays d4. Look at that positioned move in reality, right? Because she knows that she's not going to just win the pawn for free, but she gives up the pawn on d4 so that when she takes on e5, she's got a stronghold on the squares, and the rook on e1 is still not participating. Smart idea.
Yeah, bishop takes d4, you're right. Rook d8 might have been an issue, but knight c4, I'm also not a big fan of. Somehow it looks dubious because after, I know you have b5,
knight b6.
You have knight b6, but queen c7, and now actually b5 becomes an issue. But okay, now maybe I can take with a queen on d4. And if you play b5, I have queen b6, or my knight will be trapped after the queen exchange.
Take the pawn. You know, if you can't win this pawn back, it's problematic because it's also going to be harder for you to get your pieces into the game. But that said, queen d4, f6. I don't want to take that pawn as white. I'm not taking that pawn. I have to do something else, like e6 or something.
Well, I mean, probably you should take the pawn on d4, right?
Oh no, I'm saying after queen d4. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay,
After queen d4,
d4.
f6 or f5 are moves that I'm looking at as white.
Yes, it could be dangerous because also
Yeah.
f2 will be hanging, but maybe I can even take on f6, and if you take with the bishop, I have e5.
Yeah, it's messy. It's messy. By the way, okay, so f6, one possibility. f5 also could be a possibility. She starts with b5. Okay.
Which looks more tempting. And now the question is, like, can I play queen b6? Is it the only move? Because otherwise I can resign, because knight e3, bishop takes c5, I have a piece down. I have to play queen b6.
You have to play queen b6. It looks right. Yeah, because otherwise this skewer
will take place. Yes,
yeah.
and she does it. And now probably Antoaneta is forced to capture, otherwise the whole strategy doesn't make sense, and try somehow to hunt the knight. For example, like queen b6, knight b6, rook a7, or rook d8, but rook a7 I like more, which keeps the option. Or like this is also possible, but now at least I can take on c7, take, and I go with a knight to e3. So at least I didn't lose, or I'm not afraid of getting my knight trapped.
And look at this again, Antoaneta with double the time of Cori. This could really be a blowout if we don't see Cori speed up. But you did mention that you think in the 1 minute she's going to be strong, and you guys might be like, "Wait, what do you mean? She's getting into time pressure every game. How's she going to be better at the 1 minute?"
No, in the 1 minute, actually, she also qualified in the 1 minute, right? It was a 1 minute plus 1 minute qualification where she beat Wunina in the final.
Yeah, something different happens. There's a lot of players who get into trouble in longer time controls, but are really, really good bullet players. It's because in bullet, you know that you just have to move super fast. There's no choice. You just have to do it. Whereas in this time control, you know, you have the luxury to think a couple times a game. So that allows people to trip up. So, you know, just because she's getting into time pressure doesn't mean that she's not going to be faster than Antoaneta when it comes to the 1-1. All right, what's going on now? Knight g4 played, and equal material. This could end up being the first draw of the match potentially.
Well, actually, like white is a little bit in trouble because of the d2 square. So if I take, for example, like on g7 and on g4, then after bishop takes g4, I don't have rook d1. So I lose the control of the d2 square. I mean, and actually the more pieces are exchanged, the control of the only open file hits in a very bad way. So e5 I like better because
yeah, I like e5. Yeah. Because if rook d2, we have time for, oh, do we have time for rook d1 if rook d2? I think so. I think that was her calculation that if rook d2, we had rook d1, and if you took on e3, we took on d2, and if you took on h2, we took on g4, and then
but
h1.
also c6 was maybe hanging. Not sure how much hanging, but it was under attack as well. So, but but now actually white's position is fairly easy and pleasant because you have space advantage, and this position here I would at least bet that white will not lose the game. It's easy now.
I agree. And now these bishops actually look underutilized, right? This one is great for a middle game where you're attacking me and stopping my king from having space. And this one is biting on granite. So like this move, bishop f8, e6, trying to resurrect the bishop where it will be threatening to go to bishop c5. So nice move by Antoaneta. I mean, she's a great positional player. So we're going to see a lot of ideas like that. Look at how instinctive she is about getting her pieces into better positions.
Yes, rook maneuvering is a very important part in play. It's finding good squares for pieces.
So rook d8 now hinted. Notice this bishop does have the nice function of stopping the rook from coming to d7. That's very convenient. But what about the rook d8 idea? Simple chess.
Yes, the only question is to me, okay, actually after rook d8, if you take on d8 and take on c2, I can take on c6 and on b5. So that would at least not mean that here was a sacrifice with rook d8. And yeah, it is c5 looks...
C5, okay. Antoaneta is still playing for the win, I think. And, you know, it's kind of unfortunate, this bishop position, because I feel like I should need some tactic here to like take advantage of this pin, but this bishop can't really participate in any meaningful way at the moment. Huh. So what does White do now?
In the worst case, I have bishop d1. It's not the move I want to play, but it works.
She played a4. A4.
Okay. That's interesting. Of course, it's a positional speaking.
Pawn takes b5, yeah.
Maybe first b4. I want to first play b4 and not to exchange, because exchanging means like making also a5 still vulnerable. So b4 and bishop takes c2 could be good, but there is some ideas connected with, for example, b4 with c5 pawn. This is attacking that
that too. That too. I was thinking bishop d2, bishop c2, f5, looking at playing h6 on bishop h6. But yeah, there's a lot of ideas giving White compensation, despite the fact that Black is currently up a pawn, but this bishop is pinned. So very dangerous for Antoaneta Stefanova, but Deysi only has 6 seconds. There's that 1 second increment though. Can she use it efficiently and not lose this game?
Well, I would say she can, because like she qualified in the 1+1 section, so she should be used to that.
Yep. And look at this. Antoaneta is willing to give this game as a draw because she's won her first 2. And what a practical decision by Antoaneta.
Yes, it makes sense, actually, because actually White had also a very dangerous plan with h3, g4. But okay, we are already now in the next game, and it's a Sicilian.
Fun times. Okay, a Sicilian with an early b3 here. So not going in for the open against e6. And okay, Cori also being ghettos.
No, but this is b6 is actually one of the best lines, because with b6 I force my knight to c3 quickly, and then the bishop on b2 is not that powerful, let's say, anymore. So b6 is one of the main responses.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So b6 here, the idea is that it's not, you can't fluidly defend this pawn, right? Because bishop d3 is very undesirable. And d3 also blocks in this bishop very early. So you have to play for knight c3, and then your bishop's not quite as strong as it would be otherwise.
That's why actually queen e2 is smarter than knight c3, though you still have the option to get into the Maroczy positions with c4 and d4. But this line actually now, I think for Black is fairly fine, even though I'm not experienced with neither color.
Well, it's just that you have a lot of moves to Lou Castle, and the position's rather open. So, you know, figuring out how to untangle these 2 pieces is going to be Black's major goal. And she wasted a move on a6. I don't want to say waste, because it was probably important to do. She was worried about knight b5 and knight d6.
Well, but you're right, actually. This was not necessary, because even after knight b5, I can answer with queen b8. So protecting the square, or even d6. So there was no need to do it, because, yeah, it was a tempo loss.
Yeah, and now you always have to keep in mind that White could play knight. You always have to look and make sure that knight c6 and e5 isn't a good idea. And bishop c5, bishop e7, d6. These are the types of options that White has here. I don't know which one she's going to choose. Bishop c5 would be a nice move to be able to get in to develop our bishop to the more active square.
Yes, I would also like bishop c5. And sometimes, you know, probably like from this kind of typical structures, h5, knight g4 ideas, which is typical in the Taimanov. Maybe not with the bishop on b2, but it's a very similar position. So the plan of, for example, like bishop c5, h5, knight g4 is still valid, and it's annoying. I mean, not annoying, but it's not so easy for White to handle it.
Still not castled. This is getting dangerous. But everything is held on to at the moment. You just have to be worried, because e5 now is a possible idea, tactical idea to rip open the position. I mean, if bishop e7, e5, I play it.
You think? No. But I don't see anything concrete yet. It looks very dangerous, but concretely, I will believe, since there's nothing concrete. Antoaneta wouldn't do it because she, as we already witnessed, she's a very careful player in this blitz match.
But instead, bishop d6 does stop that tactical idea of e5 because bishop takes e5 and we don't have any fun in games with that discovery. And she, in fact, it's a very strong bishop on e5. That's a very creative play by Deysi here. You know, normally you don't find yourself playing bishop d6 to bishop e5, but it's working out for her. I like this idea.
Yes, it's actually very typical in the Tamanov to play with bishop d6, provoke a weakness. Actually, g3 is also the right response over h3 as an alternative. Sometimes they do play king h1 just not to do anything, but okay, now with g3, at least bishop g2, f4 plans are valid. So what could be an idea for black is to pressure the e4 pawn with putting pressure on c3 with rook c8. That could be something which I believe is maybe fortunate.
Yeah, white's got to do something, you know, move the bishop back and play for f4 potentially. We can't just sit around and wait for you to make threats like with rook c8, as you mentioned.
But okay, now she castled at least, and we don't have to be worried about the rook b1, okay, trying to unpin and moving the knight, which is probably useful.
True, but it shows that white doesn't feel good about what happened, right? You know, this move is not a move where she's like playing for some big advantage as white. She's trying to protect her position. She is I think she's worse now. I mean, this rook d8 move looks really nice. Like d5 is every Sicilian player's dream. We're also going to stick the other rook on c8, provided that we're not worried about queen a6. We'll have to calculate that, but most likely that would be losing because of bishop b7 and the knight on c3 is hanging. So yeah, look at all these arrows I'm making for black. I obviously like black.
No, I wanted to just ask you, but I thought like I skipped the question which color you currently prefer, because it's too obvious, and I bet you are a Sicilian player as well, which would underline your beautiful speech about this nicely positioned by black. But okay, now at least black has to be a little bit attentive, like for the plan of f4. So maybe queen b7 is clever, so that after f4 we can take on c3 and on e4, and then pushing d5 rather quickly, or d5 immediately is also interesting, maybe even stronger. But it's sure that black has to do something quickly, because if I make f4 and e5, then it's not so nice anymore.
Queen b7. So you're saying that if f4, bishop takes c3, queen c3, you can't take with a knight because of checkmate, but you could take with the
with a bishop, yes.
Yeah, okay, but she did not choose to do that. She just played bishop to b7.
It's a trap, because now after f4 I take on c3, and if bishop takes c3 I can still take on e4, and the queen is overloaded, which is a nice trap, and it's a very strong move. Bishop b7.
Loose pieces, they do drop off.
You know what I feel? I think Cori gets stronger and stronger game by game. She's playing better than in the first two games. Don't you agree?
Oh yeah, this looks like a great game so far by her. And yet still the clock. She is still losing on the clock. And Antoaneta, I mean, we can say all we want about Deysi needing to speed up. I think a lot of credit goes to Antoaneta. She is playing very practical blitz. She's playing very fast. And it's not easy to deal with that in these relatively complicated positions. So bishop takes b2. Antoaneta on move. I would think she wants to improve the position of her knight. So she'll play knight takes b2.
Unless knight takes b2. Rook takes b2 looks very dubious. So I think knight takes b2. Okay, after knight takes b2, okay.
She decided to take with the rook. There must have been something concrete she didn't like.
Well, b5 could be the idea. The b5 could be the idea to cut c4 and a4 square for the knight, and then you have to maneuver the knight again. But yeah.
But the fianchettoed rook, usually not. The rook doesn't usually like to be fianchettoed because it's boxed in.
Probably the fianchetto rook is the worst piece on the planet. But if I can play c4, at some point it will be fine. But probably I will not allow you this. Now you cannot, because there's an opposition between rook and queen. So taking on g2 and playing b5 would be a good way of treating it.
Bishop takes g2 and b5, trying to restrict the potential of this.
Maybe b5 immediately, because there's no need to take on g2 if, well.
I like it. Here we have it. Two bad pieces for white, but the structure is totally fine. And can black make use of those two pieces to increase her advantage, or will time run out? She's played rook d4, like it, attacking the pawn on c4. Good. Rook d8. Now the rook on b2 actually is very useful because it protects the d2 square. So things kind of turn around for Antoaneta in that regard.
Yes, but actually it's very hard to see like where black would have played better. I mean, maybe the only difference would have been not to take on g2, but to play b5 immediately. But otherwise, all looked very sensible, like what both of them did.
Okay, and now, she's played e5 here. Okay, this position can still go any which way. It's still like a lot of excitement going on here. Let's see. I'm a little worried about her back rank because it's currently completely unprotected, right? So there's always going to be like potential tactics. Antoaneta just playing a super practical move. Elizabeth, you said it earlier that
getting out of potential checks.
Yeah, she's very practical.
Yes, I mean, like you have to be. I mean, she's not that practical, let's say, in classical games, but in Blitz, actually, like she's quite smart. I mean, here they play with some kind of strategy, not the chess strategy itself, but the time management and what kind of positions I want strategy. So that is very clever by Antoaneta, the style or the way she's playing here. But h5 I like. Now at least it's getting a little bit.
I like this. I like this.
Rook e4. I saw like how even h takes g3 was possible, sacrificing the exchange.
Queen f3, h3, creating all sorts of potential threats. This is really going to be a fun one. What about knight h6? Is that a move that we want to play? Throw that in, try to get this knight out the board, or is it just a waste of time because our knight is really strong here? I think I want to keep the knight.
Like after knight h6, I can take. If you take on f6, I can take on c4, and there's also like rook d1 with mating ideas. So that would be probably also very risky. So knight e3.
Yeah, I like knight e3 because that was running knight d5, and if knight d5, queen e4, potentially. And okay, queen f5. Both players at risk here, both on the time and with the incredible number of potential tactics. But that h3 pawn is gone. Antoaneta,
which was, of course, a big relief for Antoaneta, but still she has problems on the f pawn because rook f1, there's rook takes f2 and queen takes e.
You got it.
Knight takes f2.
Knight takes f2 anyway.
And knight e3, holy smokes.
This is juicy. It looks like Deysi up on time for the first time in the match. And
yes, not only up on time, but also
not only
up on position.
Yeah. And knight e7 check. Oh my God, no. King h8 would have been queen h5 mate. and Antoaneta saved a draw.
No, I king e8.
King e8.
I doesn't rook takes
rook e5. No, rook e5 if king e8. How tricky. Great job, Antoaneta.
That was, of course, a lucky one.
Well, we have a break. And it's a perfect time for a break because what a heart-thumping game. Both players absolutely need it. We will be right back with Stefanova, Cori, and the Women's Speed Chess Championships after this break. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Women's Speed Chess Championships presented by FIDE and Chess.com. I'm Jennifer Shahadi. I'm here with Elizabeth Pates. We're having so much fun in this Stefanova Cori match. Right now, Stefanova with a big lead, 3-1 in the 5-minute portion. But the last game, Deysi showed some fine form, Elizabeth, and should have won that game. Stefanova was very tricky and found this draw at the end. But if the match continues like this, it's going to get a little closer.
Yes, you're right, but I still would bet on Cori in the 1+1 section, because for now, actually, we both agreed that classical players should have the small edge, at least in the longer time controls. But the shorter the time control will be, we will see how much experience and knowledge will definitely or eventually pay off.
And our fifth game is underway. By the way, we got about 30 minutes left on the clock of the 5-minute and 1-minute section of the Speed Chess Championship. So for those of you who are not aware, the way it works is we get faster and faster. And pretty soon we're going to be playing 3-minute chess. But for now, we have another Slav, a little bit different than the one that we saw before, where Antoaneta had played A6 and all the pieces remained on the board. But still her favorite opening for Black. And let's see, how is White gonna play this one?
Well, actually, the line with Bishop D3 is a very unambitious one, because we usually like to exchange that bishop by structural means. I mean, Black's pawns are all on white. Exchanging the light squared bishop is actually structurally wise a good thing. And now what Antoaneta does is playing for the square on e4. And for this reason, the bishop d3 line usually doesn't promise much of advantage or no advantage at all. And yeah, I mean, probably what White should do is playing knight e2 and still hoping to push e4 if that is somehow possible. Otherwise, she may seriously face problems on the white squares.
Yeah, I like knight e2. Good idea, great idea. Because it's like our position just looks so meh. I'd rather at least keep some juice in the position. And of course, it would maybe make Black aware of ideas like c5 and a3. But she's like knight d2. She also wants to capture that e4 square.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I mean, probably Antoaneta will go for castle because she cannot prevent e4, but maybe she can have some tactical tricks with taking on c4 because of the queen on d8 and queen on d3 opposition, but White can always take with the queen, so there's no knight e5 or knight c5 tricks in there. But yeah, queen a5, also interesting, increasing the pressure, but it's not big pressure on c3 in any case.
No, not big pressure.
But e4 is not possible now, I think, because it loses a pawn after taking on e4, or first taking on c3 and then taking on e4. So it was at least a prophylactical move against. And queen a5 also has ideas of queen a6, using the fact that the queen on d3 is not protected and increasing the pressure on the pawn on c4.
But what about knight b3?
Then queen a6.
Yeah, queen a6, and then if we play back to d2, you switch it up and do something different.
Yes, actually, then I would lose the tempo, and e5 is maybe then possible already because you cannot capture on d5. So here, you have to be very careful on what to do. I'm not sure what is the best here. Maybe, well, maybe you should play a3, force the exchange, and then after queen a6, play a4 and bishop a3, trying to use the dynamic approach. Or what do you think?
Well, I just think that after a3, you're not actually running a takes before right away, right? Queen takes a1. So I could consider just holding the position a little bit longer and seeing what your plan is. But I guess you're threatening knight b3, right?
Yeah, so you have to react. You have to react for sure. And you will take on c3 and playing for the white squares. That is kind of typical.
Yeah. I mean, if we played queen a6 right away there, it's a bit too fancy, because then a takes before queen a1, knight b3 might get really exciting. So f3 though is White's choice here.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is that, I mean, f3, even if you push e4 and you play with the hanging pawns, There are already like a lot of, well, not a lot, but some pieces are exchanged, and at some point also c3 will be exchanged. Not sure the space advantage gives you so much. Maybe still I will play like queen a6 as one option. If you play e4, sometimes you take on e4 and play e5, you give the protected pass pawn, but you fight for the square on d5. There are such kind of ideas as well. So now she may take and play e5, take on e4, or e5 immediately even, yeah. Because that's what I meant. Like, I am not sure that e4 was mature enough, or it's just premature, because now e takes c4 and bishop c5 is also a threat.
Shout out to everybody in the Twitch chat. I'm really appreciating all of your great comments and, of course, compliments. So yeah, we love all our viewers today. Thank you. Takes on d4. If queen takes d4, bishop c5. So white can't do that. Yikes! This position's really looking good for Stefanova. You know, Ellie, it's funny how with the Slavs so far, Stefanova's gotten two really good positions. She's actually been better in both. I feel like in one of those breaks, Desi's going to have to think a little bit more about how to deal with this, because she's getting worse positions with white, right?
Yes, but this is because actually, like, Stefanova chooses lines she's playing since her birth, I would say. And so she has like the feeling, and she can play it by hand. And for Cori, she changes like the line every single time. So basically, like, she's not so familiar with the lines because she's changing permanently. And for this reason, actually, yeah, Antoaneta does well in her pet lines. Knight b3, by the way, was probably the best choice here, because then at least this bishop c5 ideas are not valid anymore. But still, I cannot take on d4 now, probably, because maybe I can. Because after queen d4, knight d4, bishop c5, bishop e3, c takes c5 is still not, it's still risky, actually.
So queen takes d4 played. Now, what are you predicting here for black?
So queen takes d4, knight takes d4,
Knight takes d4,
bishop c5.
Oh, she's taking on d5 instead, thinking that if queen b6 we can take with the knight, we have really nice protection over d5.
Yeah, d5 taking is also like, of course, logical.
Yeah. And so instead of queen takes b6, if we just play knight takes d5 here, which is what happened.
But now, well, knight
Black
takes c5.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if black could just change her mind at some point and play knight c5 and stop the queen trade, but that's okay. You know, I want to keep the ladies on, but Antoaneta has a different idea. She thinks she's better in this endgame, as she's going to win back this pawn, or at least doing fine in this endgame.
Yeah, she does fine.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the material is equal now, but you know, this pawn here kind of creates like some small problem, and the bishop isn't developed yet. So, you know, Antoaneta, as usual, has more time, and any glimmer of imbalance in the positions that favor her are going to make her want to play to the bitter end.
Yeah, but okay, there are some kind of patterns of rook takes d5 and knight e7 you have to watch out. Easily to be missed, especially in blitz. But okay, now after g6, those patterns are vanished. Maybe knight g3, knight e4, but after knight g3, f5 could be a very strong positional move to not let her play knight e4 at all.
Restricting move. It's often said that the knights on g3 and b3 are terrible pieces, and a lot of the time it's because they're so restricted. In order to get back into the game, it's going to have to reroute to e2. Bishop e3 played, which creates a threat. Bishop takes d2 and knight e3 check, winning some material.
Yes, some material is the least to say. Yeah, just a pawn, but actually more than enough, I would say, to have a winning position.
Especially with this time advantage as well.
Yeah, I mean, here I don't believe that there will be a chance by because rook d8 and rook c2, or like knight d3 and rook d2 actually looks very sensible.
That's right. Knight e3 is going to create a beautiful dynamic on that file. You can't play king c3 because rook c8. And Well, maybe you have to try that actually, because you're the other line, king b1, rook d2. It just looks devastating. But Antoaneta has also found another good move, knight h4. It's very difficult to protect this pawn on f3. She has to do it with a passive move, rook f1. That's no fun.
Yeah, but now, I mean, at least I can try to hit on f5, but okay, knight f3 is also like something. Okay, then h3 is still possible. But yeah, I mean, usually if I get my king to g6 or f6, then I don't have to worry much.
Well, she played knight f3 with a sweet little tempo on the rook. And now just a solid rook d5, protecting this pawn. And it's just going to be bad news. Maybe she's going to protect this pawn first and then play for rook d2. Either way, this one is going the way of Antoaneta, in my opinion. Knight b5 check now. Saves the day because knight c3 protects the rook on d5. So you didn't have time to take it. And now Deysi resigns as she doesn't want to keep some time on the clock, give herself a chance to at least get one win in, as she got a pretty good position, I think, with black in the Scandinavian. It didn't start out that well, but she came back and almost won that game. So let's see how it goes this time. So last time, we really did not like her position at all. Antoaneta was able to get a very nice position against her bishop on g6 and with a fianchetto. Let's see how Deysi differs this game to get a better position.
Well, maybe like in her breaks, like if her brother is around, he could at least tell her like what she can improve. So it's good to have such a strong family member in the family. You know that her brother's a grandmaster, right?
Yes, yes. And then I was just thinking about my brother and my brother in the Scandinavian.
Yeah.
As he's famously not a fan.
Brother. Yes, I also remember your brother in the Scandinavian. Yeah. But 95 now is a different line, even so still not the main line by modern theory. But okay, Antoaneta is clever not to go for the main lines because they can be dangerous if you don't know them by heart.
And she's been doing so great on the clock in this tournament where she's been able to gain time. Okay, so knight c6 played.
Now it's not so easy what to do, because if you take on c6, queen takes c6, you don't want to play rook g1. If you play bishop f4, then d4 is hanging. So knight g6, however, also gets the h file open. But probably bishop e3 is still fine and everything is all right.
Oh, she just plays bishop g2 because queen d4, bishop c6 wins on the spot. And if knight takes d4, you're losing this pawn on b7, which is so essential because you want to castle queen side. So black is going to have to start with castling long, I think, and then bishop e3 will basically transpose.
That's one thing, or e6 and bishop e7, keeping the option of short castle would be the other idea. But I prefer also long castle, to be honest. But then we have almost the same position like in the Scandinavian we had in the 5+1 section, right? Or very similar, at least.
Yeah, although there was a big difference that knight e4, knight takes c3 was in the position, which actually was really nice for white because we had this beautiful b file.
Well, that's true, yeah. Your memory definitely works better than mine. Yeah.
Well, let's see. It's quite early here in the United States. I'm on my second coffee. Queenside Castles has been played, and now we're expecting bishop e3 because now it's a real idea to take on d4. Okay, she starts with g5, actually a little tempo move. And
but knight h, I mean, usually g5 is a good move if you can cut the knight out of play. But after knight h5, at least I can still aim for the square on f4. So it's not so clear whether this move was immediately needed. However, I understand she wants to fight for the control of the central squares. So pushing the knight away makes, from the positional point of view, a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does seem dangerous to allow a knight into f4, but note that there are tactical ideas. Like you can't just play knight h5, knight f4 without considering queen g4 check and this king, and the knight would be forked, forcing like the undesirable knight e6. So as usually, when you castle queenside, your king on c8, it's not that well protected, right? You usually have to take a timeout to play king b8. Knight h5 was played.
Yes, now I can play bishop e3 because if you take on d4, I believe, well, okay, we changed the topic, but I believe there was queen g4 check followed up by long castle. I don't know why Antoaneta permanently wants to bring her bishop g2 into trouble, but somehow it seems that she likes the move d5 a lot. Even so, positionally speaking, bishop e3 was very interesting, but maybe this sacrifice was not sufficient, but I'm not sure.
So she starts with queen e5 check.
Which I'm also not so sure, because now maybe queen e2 is a smart decision to change into the end game, because the weakest part I had was the king. When you have a weak king, queen exchange makes sense. We play with a bishop pair as well. So queen e2 is probably a move I would strongly consider.
Yeah, critical decision here as Antoaneta Stefanova, as usual, has more time than her opponent. 3 minutes and a half versus 2 and 11, and we've got 4-1. So big lead from Antoaneta to start off this match as she considers her options here. She keeps queens on the board, bishop e3. The cool thing is that even though knight f4 is desirable, queen g4 check would still be devastating. So she starts with the move e6, which is kind of cool because it both attacks d5 and defends against a check.
Queen g4, now knight b4, and the game becomes again very messy.
Oh yeah, this is a nice mess. I'm kind of glad Antoaneta did not trade queens because we're having some fun here. So we can take on d5 with the pawn because of the pin, but as Elizabeth points out, knight b4 attacks d5, it attacks c2 with check. So,
but I can play
position.
long castle actually, because d5 is not hanging, as we have enough protectors and the e6 pawn is pinned. So knight b4 doesn't really improve much, as after long castle, she also has to be afraid that her knight on b4 could be trapped.
What about bishop b4? Is that another idea? Bishop b4, if pawn takes e6, bishop takes c3, pawn c3, queen c3 check.
Yes, after bishop b4, it's a very good idea, but maybe I can play short castle, and if you take on c3, then I will take on c6.
And then you're threatening pawn takes b7 to boot, and that looks very dangerous.
Yeah.
So Deysi, in some trouble here.
It's in trouble, yeah.
The queen, the thing here is that queen on g4 is very strong, right? It stops takes on d5, it stops the knight on f4. And it's not easy. It's not as vulnerable as you would think it would be, right? You would think there would be ways for black to attack the queen here, but actually there aren't really any. I mean, f5 met by en passant and taking on e6.
Yeah.
So this was part of the point of Stefanova's g5 earlier, that she saw that not only did it attack the knight, but it also gave this this very nice spot for her own queen.
Yeah, but I think like Deysi has to move.
15 seconds left, and she did play bishop b4, and wow, well, Stockfish does not like my move at all.
Well, maybe Stockfish would like underline now that castle is a nice option to respond to. Maybe knight b4 was a smarter choice, but in any case, I think she's in trouble.
Yeah, the problem is that it's a very forcing line, right? Like if this bishop b4 doesn't work, if white can indeed castles, there's no bailout variation. There's no bailout. I mean, you are in big trouble because your knight on d5 is in take, and if you move it, you lose the bishop. I guess you could try bishop d6, threatening mate.
Yes,
maybe,
actually, I wanted just to point out there is this bishop d6 idea, which is very dangerous. But maybe what Antoaneta does is just some simple calculation. She can go now king.
This is the key. So not taking on c3, just moving her king like f1. Yeah. This is a nice line. Yeah, well done. And that that again, it's about this beautiful bishop. Like at the end of the day, the material will be equal, and black could take on b2, but this bishop is so strong. This bishop pair is so strong, and Antoaneta comes out on top.
Yeah.
Great tactic. I mean, that's the thing. A great positional player who knows when to, just toss out the tactics. That's why she's a grandmaster and a world champion. Okay. And actually, she took here. So I was thinking that queen takes c2 was kind of hard to meet, but I guess she's just wiggling around with her king here because queen d3
Yes.
check, just king g1.
Yes, and
Yeah.
her king is also in trouble. b5. Ooh.
b5. Well, she's now down a piece. And then that is now the problem, right? We were hoping that black was going to be able to win back some material, like this rook on a1, and Antoaneta just grabbed and go.
But I also don't see any compensation, to be honest. I mean, you need a lot of fantasy to find compensation. Here, I would even dare to say that black's king is weaker than the white's one. Okay,
Yeah.
but after the queen exchange, then it's game over. I mean, maybe she didn't even realize that she's a piece down. Right, so, yeah.
I think she did. Maybe she's trying to finish maybe she's okay finishing this game because there is a clock, and I think they can squeeze in one more game.
Yes, actually, it's good not to resign too early and to keep the time running for the category where you believe that you have the superior.
True.
Where you can hope, let's see, to have the superior chances,
but I think at this point we're beyond that. Cori just needs to get more games in, regardless of whether it's her time control or not. You know, she just needs to get more iterations and hope that things go her way. Another nice game by Antoaneta. I really did like that one. The Scandinavians are so much fun, castling on opposite sides. Okay, so what's up with this knight h6 move? So she's putting her knight on h6 and immediately breaking the cemetery. Not the cemetery, the symmetrical position.
actually, okay. Yes, the knight on h6 wants to go for f5 and putting pressure on the pawn on d4, and then actually it can also beautifully maneuver towards d6, keeping control on e4 and c4 square. So this kind of development made sense. Now we are actually in a kind of theoretical line, just with a difference. If there's a knight on f6, this is all theory. With a knight on h5, this is modern fantasy or creativity, I would say. So hard to say if the knight on f6 actually is better placed here, because you have some pressure on d5 as well.
Right. So there's pros and cons. We get more pressure on e5, you get more pressure on d5. But one thing's for sure, it's very interesting this way, right? The pure symmetry is not as interesting. So we're happy that we're getting every game interesting almost no matter what opening they play. So what's up here? Knight c3 played, and if Antoaneta just takes on e5, she can't take twice because this knight on h6 hangs. So,
and she has no time for knight f5 because maybe d5 is hanging. And okay, it's not really hanging because e5 and d4 is hanging too, but okay, she maybe takes and plays d4. Okay,
very straightforward here. But remember, this pawn is still taboo because the bishop on h6 is attacking the knight, right? So white can move the knight away and play for f4.
Yeah, knight d5 is actually interesting as well.
Knight d is a dog.
Yeah, knight d5 like the dog. Because the idea is, okay, if you play e6, you weaken the black squares. And on the other hand, the knight on d5, at least temporarily, protects also e3, so that after knight f5, I can consider f4. And even if you push me away with e6, you make your bishop on c8 being a bad piece, and you weaken your black squares.
That's right. So you make this bishop weak, and it also is just hard for you to do anything with knight f5 because it's not an aggressive move anymore. Yeah, I like white in this line. Let's see what she ended up doing. She did play knight d5, indeed. I don't like e6. So what about bishop e6? Then you can just take on d4, huh?
Probably, yeah. But okay, then I take on d5. I cannot take with the bishop because of e6.
So she plays knight f5 here.
And now I want to play f4.
Yeah.
Still f4, because after e6 I play knight b4, and even if you play knight e3, I mean, you will lose this pawn eventually, and your bishop on g7 doesn't play. That's why actually knight e5 was a very clever choice. Now simply f4, Maybe bishop e6 is a good answer to that. But nevertheless, knight e3 is not something to be seriously afraid of.
No, I love it. I love it. And Deysi, rare in this match, is ahead on time as well. Though, let's see if that maintains itself after this move. But you don't have a lot of other options besides f4, right? I mean, you want to protect that pawn,
Right.
and something like g4 looks undesirable because of knight h4. But she played it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe knight h4. There's just like bishop e4, and you're just not worried because bishop g5 could come into the position.
I'm worried.
Attacking e7 and you see when I mean just thinking knight h4, maybe bishop g5 immediately, knight g2, knight e7
yes,
back.
That's actually probably something I missed.
And you don't get 3 pieces for the queen, not even close. No, you only get 2. So that's not good. She can't play knight h4, meaning wait, what does she do? She has to play e6 or knight h6, knight back to h6. She has to play knight back to h6, it looks like, because I don't think e6 was very smart. Bishop e6 was her thought. Okay, coming up with a third option there. Smart. Because now the knight is booted out of d5, so now you can play knight h4 again, right? But the pawn on b7 is hanging.
But you don't have an option, right? You have to move the knight on f5, and if you move to h6, I would dare to say the knight there would make me more worrisome on h4. In any case, you lose materials on knight h4.
That's right. Knight h4 played. Knight takes e6, little in between move, attacking the queen on d8. And now what? Bishop takes b7. Looks a little risque. Is there another move for us here? Like something that's a little bit more solid.
Yes, but if you play f4, I take the bishop, and then I have g5 to queen b3. Okay, the computer doesn't like it, but I like the move.
Yeah, she's just trying to take on e6 check, where she's gonna have a lot of control, and bishop g5 as well is coming into the position in that point. So I wonder why the computer hates this move so much. Is it because of just a simple move like queen d7? No, I don't think so. Maybe.
No, maybe I can take on g2 and play queen d5 and exchange the queens. Then e5 is hanging for a moment. You have to react.
But I'll take e6 in between move, check, right?
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
This one I missed.
So knight g2, queen takes e6 check. I'm not going to let you play queen d5. And then, I mean, I guess you play, I don't know, king h8. Yeah. And now after king g2, I'm currently up a pawn, right? So that's cool, right? I mean, is maybe
d3. It's not totally like clear.
Yeah,
because
okay.
I get some play on the white squares, but objectively, yes, it's a pawn.
Yeah, but this is a good move, d3. I agree, and I have pretty weak development, and my pawn structure is a little loosey-goosey here too.
I guess you have to take queen takes d3, and then I have some checks, but okay, not necessary.
But this has put Antoaneta into a big thought. Wait, as she played queen d7 after some thought, and now Deysi has almost twice as much time. I mean, this is fantastic for her because it's very rare in the match. Queen takes b7, bishop takes b7. Okay, and white is now up just one pawn.
Not so much, yeah.
But both players have so many weak pawns.
Maybe bishop a6 and bishop c4, or bishop e4 looks like the most natural one, but at least with the bishop on c4, I can try to hit the weakness on e6. But yes, I play with a bishop pair, and I have also structural advantage, so white should be definitely better.
And we're in the bubble here. We will probably get one more 5-minute game because there's 5 minutes left on the clock. So unless it were to go quite a long time, we'll get another 5-minute game in. Will Deysi win her first game of the match? I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with yes, because she's up a pawn, right? Or I mean, she not anymore, but she's got a great position with the 2 bishops, and she's ahead a minute on the clock. Yes,
she has also easy plans. She can play b3 to just put everything stable. But okay, b3 maybe is a bit premature because of d3. I missed tactics again, so it's not that easy. But maybe I start with bishop d3 and then b3 and then bishop a3 ideas. That could be something. Or no, bishop d2 doesn't work yet. I mean, my problem is b2. So bishop d3 actually looks like a very stable move. And then small rook b1 probably is fine too, yeah.
Rook b1 was her choice, okay. And now after rook c8, bishop d3, all on the board. And this knight also basically trapped. Bishop d2 is actually going to threaten bishop e1, Elizabeth. Whew.
Ah, all right.
And then, I mean, you're going to be in big trouble. And Antoaneta saw that. That's why she played e5. She's realizing that, she needs to somehow reduce this like structural grip that white has on the position that's making her knight immobilized.
I'm not a fan of f5 because now the rook on b6 can swing. Okay, not totally, but still on the g file there could be some counterplay. But still, of course, white is here a little bit better. Maybe bishop d2 makes sense now to develop. And king f2 sometimes could be a sensible move just to get out of the f file and have, okay, king h1 does something similar. So who would you bet on here in this game? Still on white?
Yeah. I don't know anymore because Antoinette has equalized the time. But I'm going to bet on white. Yeah. Let's make this match a little closer. I'd like to see it 5-2 going into the 3-minute portion.
Yes. Move the pawns. That is a wise decision. But now we have to be careful. Okay, exchanging one rook is always good, not to allow too much dynamics.
That's right, because black is trying to create some little counterplay over there on the king side. How about you? Who are you voting on, Liz?
Well, I mean, obviously, like if Deysi wins this game, we still can like look for an interesting fight. But if Deysi is losing the game, I doubt that she will like keep up this. I mean, like to get back the score in the 1+1 section. That's too much. Then it's already like 4 points by now.
Bishop b4.
Fighting, she should win.
Yes, bishop e4, good move. She's going to throw in a bishop c4, threatening mate.
And the knight still on h4 doesn't play. So maybe rook f1 with the idea of rook f4.
Ah, I see. Yeah.
But not to allow the knight to play. So rook f1 anyway is a very logical move.
So bishop c4, you're saying we can just play like h6 or something. She did play bishop c4 though, and h5, not h6, stopping checkmate because the king has this little slide away square. But she's going after that beautiful outside pass pawn. But this is play for everyone. Knight e3. Oh, bishop d3 check. Bishop takes e7's in the position now. Oh no, not anymore. Sorry.
Yes, but what she did is like something very risky because she put her king almost on mate. Instead, she could play positionally against the knight, which would give her a long time advantage. And this is something where Antoaneta wouldn't have even thought. And she would have gone for the safe.
No, she's going to lose. Bishop e5, rook takes e4. She's got only 2 seconds left, though. 2 seconds left on the clock. But that pawn.
The a pawn is very dangerous.
Knight f2 check.
Oh boy. Okay, now it's over.
Oh no, you were about to make a really great point about how in the end game Antoinette is going to win. How in the end game, in the middle game, usually the 2 pieces are better than the rook. But in the end game, when you have that beautiful a pawn, it is actually the rook that's better. But as long as you don't lose it, you can't lose the rook. And we have one more game in the 5-minute portion.
Yeah.
And we get another Scandalous.
Yeah.
And
but you will tell me if there's a novelty because my memory doesn't work for obvious reasons.
Well, this is different, right? So we've got okay. Knight e5.
We had it.
Yeah, we did.
I would dare to say we had it.
And look at that, Antoaneta Stefanova with almost 2,700 rating now because she's gained so many points in this match. I guess 30 points isn't really almost, but she's going up. She's heading up the rankings.
That's true.
We're going to have to look at the brackets after this to see if Stefanova does indeed win this match, who she will likely play in round 2.
Oh, I didn't even check that. She would have, no, it's the other side, which I don't see now because of the Zoom.
She's playing against the winner of Vaishali and Lee King-yi. So that match has not been played yet.
Ah, okay.
And then if she wins that, it'll be Ho Yifan or BB. Yeah.
It's
That could be
true.
very interesting indeed. But I've seen Hou Yifan play in one of these once, and she had some serious issues with her time. Like I don't know, maybe her internet connection wasn't so good. So even though, of course, with classical rating, she is by far the favorite.
Yes, but
Anything can happen.
online chess is a different category.
Yeah, and online blitz especially, right? Because
Yeah.
if she doesn't have like really good mouse speed for that 1 minute match, it could be quite interesting indeed. And
Also,
I
like
mean,
if you're an expert on mouse slips like I am, it's yeah, it's a different category because mouse slips, for example, they don't work in normal OTB chess. It's the same for internet connection. These are two new factors which actually make the difference mainly, right?
right. And then from the other side, there's all sorts of ways to increase your advantage a little bit, like pre moves and being good with them, all
Ah,
that
yeah,
kind of stuff.
pre-moves. I'm afraid of pre-moves because sometimes, these pre-moves would turn out in very bad surprises. So I hardly put them unless it's like a recapture where I know that it's an illegal move if it wasn't done. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're overused in 1 minute plus 1 second increment. It's not 1 minute with no increment. So the risk is sometimes bigger than the potential reward. Queen
Yeah.
e2, knight e2. Okay, so we got one of the drier positions that we've had so far. White has the two bishops, so that you'd think that would be really nice here.
Here, bishop before check here is a good positional move because we would provoke c3 as the bishop pair shouldn't be changed. And then, okay, this is the same, but to provoke a weakness on the white squares, for example, is sensible. Even so, okay, bishop b7.
Oh, so Antoaneta just gave up a pawn there because she thought knight d4, there's c5. King d1, there would have been queen side castle. It's a check. So she says, hey, take a pawn. And Deysi does not take it right away. And because b7 was hanging, right? And now knight c2 would have been met by rook b1. So she plays knight to d3. Okay, that's cool because if she wants to gain the bishop pair, or actually take the bishop pair away from Stefanova, rather, this is the moment because b2 is hanging. But wait, b7 is
Seven is
hanging.
hanging. Yes, it's not that simple as it seemed to be for us. But maybe now bishop c5. He put pressure on f2. I still like Black's position because Black's pieces are much more active. So definitely I would prefer Black here. So bishop c5, yes, was played. b4, okay, bishop b6. Do we care? We don't care.
All right, yeah, nice play by Deysi. Just trying to maximize the position of her pieces. I mean, the knight on d3 and the bishop on b6, that's exactly what we want. So the two bishops you have, but Black really has a very nice nice pieces here. Now, would you put the rook on e8, or do you just like it hanging out on h8?
Well, it's not clear because maybe on the h file the rook could be sent. Okay, right. Knight g3. Sometimes you have to be afraid of knight takes f2 and rook d2 and rook e2, but it's not yet the case. Rook e5, clever move, very clever move. I still like Black's position very much.
Yeah, definitely easier to play. And can't play h4 because this hangs. So you can't play f4 because it's not legal. Chess.com won't even let you do it. If you play bishop takes f6, I mean, okay, of course you're admitting now that you're worse, right?
But bishop d2 doesn't work because of knight takes f2.
So I guess we maybe have to play bishop f6, but then for sure we like Black because this knight is not very strong. Unless you can just play like knight e4 right away and try to improve the position of this piece. Okay, she plays rook to a2, protecting f2.
Which is sensible, of course. Now maybe knight f4, because anyway, we have to clear the d file to bring at some point our rook into play.
Exactly. So knight f4, but the question is if you ever really want to take care, right? Because then
no, we don't actually.
Yeah, then the position. I mean, maybe at some point if you like win a pawn or something for it. Rook d3 could be a dangerous move. Threatening rook takes g3 and also x-raying to h3.
But we have to watch out for c5. That's why it was clever to play bishop d4 first.
Yeah, so that was the problem with my idea. And that was actually the reason for c4, because she wanted to stop that idea. So quick bishop d4 by Deysi. Seems like she's playing really quick this game. That's good, because she's been in big time pressure throughout this match.
In the most games, absolutely true, yeah.
Yeah,
But
for those
still,
of us.
it's, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Actually, I lost my thought.
I just wanted to say, for anyone who's just joining us, this match is the Women's Speed Chess Championships. We're in the round of 16. Stefanova versus Cori. Stefanova, former women's world champion, grandmaster. She is crushing in this match so far, playing some fine blitz moves. And she has a 6-1 lead against Deysi Cori. And, you know, it's not even like Cori is actually playing badly. It's just she's getting into trouble on the clock. And that's usually deciding it in almost every game.
When, in my opinion, what is her name? Deysi. Deysi does two crucial mistakes in terms of time management and in terms of choosing openings she is very familiar with. And I think this is the reason why Antoaneta is superior in this match, mainly. Because you should play lines you know by birth in blitz, not to lose time, so you know the ideas by hand. And of course, you should try to play faster. That's my assumption why we have this big difference in the score.
Ho Yifan is a student at Oxford. That's right. I'm taking a look at the Twitch chat. Odd says Angel NYC, Coach Angel NYC says that you came to 318 in Brooklyn, the famous junior high school one day. Good memory from Angel. Do you remember that, Elizabeth?
I remember that Elizabeth Vickery took me to some high school or to some schools, but it's been 20 years ago, almost not 20, but something like 17, 16 years ago. But I remember I was visiting only with her some schools, beginning of 2000, 2001, 2002. But I wouldn't remember the kids. I remember I saw kids, but I didn't remember who it would be. I wouldn't recognize them, of course.
But they remember you, and that's why it's so important to do stuff like that.
Yeah, it's nice. It's always nice to go to schools, actually, especially in different countries. The most exciting memory or experience I had when going to a school in Soweto, in the Southwest Township in South Africa. That was something really unique, you know.
Yeah, I was there. I was in Soweto in South Africa as well, near Johannesburg. Or in Johannesburg, rather, I believe. Rook A1 played here. Now, what's going on?
Rook C3 only move, otherwise you can resign. Yeah.
Checkmate was the idea. So she has to play a Rook C3, and now what did the bishop just? I big bishop went.
Bishop b6. If you take on f7, I take on f2, and that would be very, very dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, if rook f3, maybe rook f3 still can be played. But then there's bishop c6. I know, then I can take on f2 with a check. So that would have worked. But maybe still now I can play something like rook f3, because I'm not sure how to protect the guy on f2, right?
That's right. King g1 allows knight takes h3.
And rook takes g3, which is probably even the worst news but it's of course hopelessly lost in any case.
So knight e4 played, but now h3 hangs as well.
Yeah, it really could be the first moment that Deysi wins, but she's very low on time again.
That's true. 12 seconds left. It is worrisome. Worrisome for her fans who are looking for her to score 1 point.
Move. Well, okay, now this is a good maneuver with knight e5.
Knight e5 coming into the position. Rook could come to f4. That's what she's doing. She's trying to keep her position protected. Bishop c6 would be threatening a mate again, but there is rook takes g4 with a check. But she done it. She's played bishop c6. She doesn't even bother taking a check to start. She is more concerned with getting rid of the mate threat, because she brings her king to e7. And if rook e8 check, king f7, and we are free as a bird.
That's true, and knight e5 is also coming, so it still looks very good for black. Yes, for black.
It does. It looks better now, actually, now that I'm not worried about getting mated. I like that. There is knight f3 check and knight d4. Maybe that would have been even stronger, but gosh, this is looking good for black.
Yes, the king should still go out of that kind of opposition at some point, because this is always allowing tactics.
That's right. Now don't blunder. You got this. Rook a1 check, rook e1. Okay, rook a2, keeping the pieces on the board. Love to see it because this rook is so active. f5. Rook takes f2 is coming.
Wow.
What a move. Rook f2, king g1. We've got unlimited discoveries, and she doesn't even take one. She just moves her king away.
Well, that was knight f3 check. Oh boy, this is very thrilling.
It is. 5 seconds left for both players. Oh, there we go.
G4.
Rook d2 played. Okay, rook d3 check. Just keeping the checks going here. Knight e3 check is now coming into the position as well.
That was knight e3, but it was missed.
That's okay. Bishop e5.
Bishop e5. Wow.
There we go.
And now you better be quick with a quick.
Yeah, she's got 5 seconds as well.
Yeah, 5 seconds is not the world.
Well, Antoaneta has even less now.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so she's finally ahead on the clock and she's winning in the position. But we never call it until it's over, guys.
Yes, better we don't. This is risky. But now the king is actually on mate.
There it is, her first win. Wow, that's great. That's great. 6-2, a really, really tough match so far for Cori, but nice for the momentum that she wins the last game of the 5-minute. As it gets quicker, will she speed up and put some pressure on Antoaneta Stefanova from Bulgaria? We will find out after the break. We'll be right back as this Women's Speed Chess Championships gets speedier. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Women's Speed Chess Championships. I'm Jennifer Shahadi, and we've been analyzing with International Master Elizabeth Pates. It's been such a great match so far. Stefanova with a big lead, but we've got a lot of exciting things happening in 2021, including the World Championship coming up in November. And Chess TV, Chess.com has exclusive rights to the video footage of the players. So you want to keep that in mind as we can see Magnussen and Jan's face, as we're certainly poised for quite an exciting match. But first, we have Stefanova versus Cori. Stefanova has been playing absolutely wonderful chess, but she did get nicked for the first time right before we went on break. Is momentum in Cori's favor, Pates? Is this going to get close?
Well, I mean, like, as I said before, I would still bet on Cori to be smallly or like slightly superior in the 1+1 section. The 3+1, I mean, if Deysi is not playing faster, I would say that also here Antoaneta would rock the scene.
Yes, yeah, I think she is going to play faster though. I have a feeling that like once you get to the 3 minute, you just have to play fast. I don't think we're going to see as much time pressure from Cori. That's my prediction. Because 5 minute is that kind of weird time control where you actually can think maybe once or twice a game. And 3 minute, you don't really have a lot of options. You gotta go. So I think that I'm gonna predict that the 3 minute portion is gonna be closer.
Yeah, that's actually a fair prediction. I would follow you here.
And here we go. We are starting off as Cori plays d4, and we will likely get another, something different.
G3 is okay, but we have seen this similar setup with a different move order already. Well, not after bishop f5 anymore.
Well, bishop f5, that's a nice move to be able to get in. Normally in these types of lines, it's hard to get that move in. But Stefanova has done it.
Yeah.
And I mean, if she is able to just move her bishop out and castle, she should have very nice equality.
Yeah, it's a kind of very typical position in the Slav. With the bishop on g2, however, you try to get a better control of the e4 square. So sometimes, yes, I want to say there are knight e2, knight h4, and e4 ideas, which here are operated in a good way. Maybe actually from all the setups Deysi was choosing, I like this one the most so far.
Yeah, she has not done well against Antoaneta's Slav opening in the 5 minute portion. But here we have a little something. Not much though. I mean, black is still doing quite well here, but it is a blitz game. So let's see what happens. Knight to s6, looking to trade off some pieces. Remember earlier in the match, Elizabeth pointed out when you have those weak pawns, you want to trade off pieces. So Antoaneta wanted to trade off pieces to kind of fixate on the d4 pawn. Cori, on the other hand, wanted to do the exact opposite, and that's why she played knight c3.
Yes, it's very important when you have space disadvantage to change pieces. That's why it was very good by Deysi to play knight c3 and to keep the pieces on the board. Also, that would give her less worries on the d4 pawn, because after the exchange of the knights and bishop comes to f6 and the pressure would be huge.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, people watching in thinking of how to improve your blitz game, notice that really strong players, they don't always trade pieces, right? They look for the best move, not moves that just relax the tension right away. And that can be a hard move for a lot of non-professionals to play, knight from e4 to c3. So I kind of keep that in mind when you're looking to improve your own blitz. Okay, queen e8 played. This looks very passive for black, but solid. Passive, but solid.
So now one idea could be rook d2 and rook d1 to double. Another idea could perhaps to play on the king side, but in blitz, for example, like I would also suggest the best thing you can have is a safe king, because this doesn't cost you much time. The moment your king is unsafe, you lose a lot of time defending. And for this reason, it's always good to choose openings where your king is safe. That's why, for example, like I wouldn't suggest to move like g4, because it doesn't do much, but giving weakness to the white's king.
Agreed. I loved her b4 move though. I liked making like some space over here and kind of discouraging c5. But these moves, f4 and g4, you know, you gain something, but you lose something, right? You lose a lot of protection along these squares. So we'll see if that comes back to haunt her. So far, unfortunately, Elizabeth, my prediction about her time management has not been very good because
Yeah.
she is down a full minute.
Yeah. Besides that, actually, like to play on two wings, usually, I mean, there are exceptions, but like elementary school of chess, attacking on two wings is very risky. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, it's something that you need a lot of time to get done, right?
Mhm.
And Queen F1.
That means she wants to push f5, but now, of course, she loses the control of d5 and c4, which is positionally speaking not nice. But maybe she can strike back because, okay, she has to play c5, but knight c4, of course, is coming. Now already, like, you have a coordination problem. Queen f3 makes sense because the bishop on e3 is worth much less than the knight on c4. For this reason, Antoaneta will definitely not exchange. She will take the pawn. Here I have two options, right? f5 was one, rook a1 the other. So bishop h7. So what do you prefer here? Like, whom do you prefer? You want to be white or black?
Oh, well, after this move knight e4, I'm a little nervous for black because I'm threatening to play f6, which looks very enticing. But I do feel like um, if we can come up with a clever way to meet that. So you played knight c4. I'm sorry, I'm dodging your question, Liz.
No. Actually, like it's indirectly answering the
like,
question because it looks like you like white, but probably like it looks much more dangerous than it is because f6 never works as to bishop takes c4, right?
yeah, that's the problem. I was just thinking about that. Like f6, bishop e4, pawn takes e7, bishop takes f3, and we're coming out down a material. So Antoaneta's ended up playing f6. It was kind of nice to avoid that, but she felt compelled to do it at some point. Now, queen takes f5. What on earth is going on here? We're down a pawn as white, but we've got a really juicy, actually, we're down two pawns, but we've got a juicy pawn on d6. So
Which makes it, yes.
Can the quality of our pawn compensate for the number? Hey,
It does. Because of the space and the activity of pieces, it does compensate. And this is very dangerous, even so being two pawns up. I would prefer white here.
Yeah, and blitz, especially. And look at that knight leap to the action. And this is the problem. This pawn is going to be tender, and knight e6 is also on the board. Oh boy, this is very tricky for Antoaneta Stefanova. Could she lose two in a row? She's still got double the time of Cori, but it's not easy to play this position. What's the deal? Is rook a1 the idea? Just simple chess?
That's
Boot the knight
one
away
option.
and just take on c6?
Oh, she sacrifices now, which is maybe a good idea.
Knight b5 and rook d1, bishop d1.
Yes,
That
it
was
still
really
works.
smart. Very smart of Deysi. And now knight d6, bang.
And you can see by Antoaneta's face, she's not happy.
Oh no. It's no matter how many points you're ahead in a chess match, it is not fun to lose two in a row.
That's true, especially psychologically.
Yeah. I mean, unless it's at the end of you've clinched victory, but we're not that close to that now. You know, this is only the first game of the 3 minute, and then we've got a bunch of blitz games to play as well. Of course, Antoinette is still the big favorite as she's up a lot of points, but we've got a match.
Rook f7 and rook takes f6.
That's a good one. Rook takes f6. So she's up and
mate on f2.
Higher rook here. Ooh, nice mate. Bishop f2 mate. Love to see it. Well, Peruvian fans love to see it at least. Cori fans love to see it. Stefanova, though, still with a magnificent lead. But, you know, how much better is it to have that 6-3 lead but not have lost two games in a row, right?
I would still prefer the +3.
Oh yeah. But you'd rather have it in a different way, you know, maybe going like, 2-2 in the first few games and then winning after that. But let's see. Stefanova, a very professional customer here, is going to try to get back on the horse. She's had success in this line, Cori usually doesn't get a very good position against the Scandinavian. I mean, with the Scandinavian.
I mean, I believe if Cori can limit down the score by -2 and enters a bullet, she has excellent chances, because then I would say, because okay, bullet is obviously her best category, at least assuming that she qualified in the bullet to the tournament.
What happens on Queen E6 check? Excuse me.
In the worst case, I play Bishop E3 back.
Yeah, I guess you have to, because you can't play Queen E2 or Bishop E2 because of Bishop F3. Obviously you can't play Knight E5 or Knight E2. So yeah, you probably have to just play Bishop E3, sure. And then you're just saying the Queen on E6 not that great. Oh, and that's happened. It's happened.
Yeah, but Bishop E3 is fine. Bishop E5 I don't like so much because of Knight E7, but Bishop E3 looks
agreed.
Solid.
And everything else just looks horrible. So she did play Bishop E3. But will Deysi get a better position with black than she has in the other games? Let's see. Knight D5. So she's now threatening to play knight takes E3.
Which makes sense to exchange some pieces.
And now we're expecting, G4 and Bishop G2 in some combination. Started with Bishop G2. Knight C6 played. And the problem is this queen, of course, is going to be in an undesirable situation after this move.
And
Knight
now
H4.
Bishop E4 actually. Bishop E4, there's C4. No, but there's Queen A5 check, but still actually Bishop E4 probably doesn't work because of Bishop D2 then.
Exactly. So C4 here, Queen A5 check, Bishop D2, and now you cannot connect this queen with this bishop and you lose a piece. So it doesn't look like she played that. No, in fact, she's still thinking. Cori is now thinking. She's, you know what? She really is not getting good positions in this Scandi. She isn't getting good positions. I wonder if she has anything else up her sleeve potentially for the 1 minute portion, because Stefanova is always ahead on the clock in these positions and usually in the position as well.
Yeah. Usually, like, you should change when a line doesn't work well. And I think she lost all her games in the Scandinavia, but no, she won one, right? The last one in the 5+1 section was also Scandinavian, which she won, right?
Yeah, but I don't think she had a good position in that either. Maybe, but yeah, you're right. I mean, she can play. The one good thing about it, I guess, for the quicker time controls is that the moves are played pretty quickly. But I still wonder if she's going to switch it up. I think she will, at least in the 1 minute. People usually switch up their openings in the 1 minute to something that they can play more quickly.
Everything is legal.
Everything's legal, yeah.
Some people claim even in the 1 minute section, you should make short moves to save time.
Right, like B3. We've seen B3 type openings already. Okay, Queen F3. And that's just another example where it's like, okay, White is not winning by any means, but she has a really nice position because she's got the two bishops and there's that lingering pressure against the king. F6 played by Deysi. Okay, by Deysi.
I think she wants E5, which is positionally speaking, if you cannot capture with a knight on E5, not a good move. No, but actually F7 was hanging. So there was not big of a choice, actually.
So she just played it because of that. Yeah, I don't think she wants E5. You're right, because after pawn E5, Queen E5, it doesn't seem like anything has helped our position. We're opening things up in a situation where we don't necessarily want to, but what to do? What to do here after queenside castles?
Maybe knight A5 is clever.
Knight A5 looking in. You're not able to play knight C4 because of
I want to play first C6 to cut the diagonal and then to play knight C4. And if you play before, I go back and I would dare to say your king got much.
Yeah. So a little bit of an inducing move, but she's just playing more close to the vest, which she really needs to do because right now she is only got 30 seconds. Troubles. 30 seconds. She's down in a full minute. Queen E4, nice move. Looking at G6, we know that Antoaneta likes to play these little positional moves, not do anything too concrete in the fast time controls. She snaps a pawn off. Nice looking game so far by Antoaneta.
Yes, being up a pawn, but okay, now at least black gets some play for the first time in the match. Knight C4, make some messes because of knight A3 check.
Yep,
But
you
she
gotta
has to
mess it
play
up.
faster. Yeah.
You gotta make something interesting. She just played bishop d6 instead. Not crazy about trades considering the position though. And I know I'm wondering why we're not getting that knight c4 move in. What about c4 now? Oh, I guess you could have no, c4 was actually probably a good move because queen d4 allowed
It's
bishop
true,
takes
yeah.
a5. But whatever. e5. Now she's played
D5, the favorite answer by Antoaneta.
c5.
Oh
Okay.
boy, that is quite some positional commitments because
Oh, but queen
now the knight,
c3.
there was queen c3 already. But okay, bishop c7 still would save the day.
That's true. It saves the pawn. That's true.
But still the position is horrible.
It is absolutely terrible. No bueno. 5 seconds left. As Cori is able to play very quickly, we see her gaining time. But the problem is, even if she gains time, her position is terrible. Everything is so tight for Antoaneta.
But there's bishop e5 as an option.
She's got to try something.
Yeah. Queen h6.
She's doing her best. She's doing her best to keep Antoaneta thinking. The time gap is narrowing. It really is. 30 seconds to 7 seconds. Queen e2 just played, hammering on the e pawn. Keep it wild.
Oh boy, c4.
Hey, according to Stockfish, the move's not good, but who cares? You got 30 seconds and 6 seconds on the board. It's just about making them think.
Yeah, but the king is horribly weak.
That's true. That's true. That's why Antoaneta simply ripped the pawn on a6. The rook, queen b2 was a threat.
Okay, she wants queen a4 and queen c6, which might be finishing the story.
Oh, that's right. Well, knight f5 now, so the queen c6, you would trade queens off.
Can I play e2 now and have queen c1 as a mating threat?
Oh boy, messy. E2. I guess
it doesn't work yet. Bishop
g2.
Ugh.
Oh, and there it is. Bishop g2 won the game. Antoaneta coming back with a win after 2 losses in a row. That's got to feel good.
That's true.
And we still got 30 minutes left of this time control, so that's quite a few games. So plenty of time for Cori to continue to make the match a little bit closer. Well, we've seen this before. This knight on h6. It didn't really turn out well for Stefanova the last time, though. I think the game ended up being a draw or a win for her, but she was in a lot of trouble.
No, she won because of this knight f2 trap with a rook on e4, if you remember.
Yeah, that was the one, right?
But it's very clever, of course, to take on to take the pawn on c4, because this way, I mean, at least like her knight will have a better job in the center. So she improved by not allowing c takes d5.
All right, knight takes c4, knight to d7, rook d1 played. Okay. I like Cori's position. Like you said, she's been struggling with the queen pawn openings, but finally, I'm a big fan. I'm a fan of this position. It seems comfortable for white. What is she going to do now, though? She doesn't want to do too many trades. I think she might put her knight.
a5, yeah.
I like that. Knight a5, threatening b7. Rook b8, simply played. But now when we get to play e4, bishop f4 is very dangerous. And if you take on d4, we have
bishop e3, c5. It's actually not so clear. I would have done it just to gain back space.
Maybe she would have done bishop f4 and bishop e5 instead. I
That's
don't know,
true.
though. But because then there would be a more juicy activity on the b7 pawn as well. So anyway, rook b8 played.
Bishop e3 back. And d5 is still in the air.
It is. And it's a very nice looking position. Okay, we could have taken on h3 and b7.
That's true, actually.
Yeah, maybe she should have taken the cookie there. Because now that she hasn't taken the cookie, it's not necessarily going to come back that easily. And meanwhile, Antoaneta is playing very practically here to get an attack of her own.
But now I can take on e4, I have bishop g4. I don't care about c6, actually. I'm not sure about this d5 move, to be honest. Well, now it's okay again, but this was well, I can take on d5, can I? And have e6. No
Yeah, that's a good
tricks.
point. Knight takes d5, and you play f4, e6, and I'm protected. And there it
Maybe
is.
I can play bishop takes a7, as dubious as it looks. Maybe this is still possible.
Gosh, it does look dubious. And wait, what's going on? Why you're saying b6, you just take on b6. Okay. So Antoinette's played f4. I don't know. I think Antoinette's gonna win this game somehow. I'm just tactics seem so dangerous with her king on g1. I'm very scared about this position. I can play for like queen a4. She played h5. She's
Yes,
looking
but
to,
this looks like not a good moment or like a good continuation for Deysi here.
look how buried this bishop is on h1. This is
I would,
not a desirable bishop.
well, the bishop on h3 at least has a job.
Oh, a big job to go after g4 to stop your king from moving.
And how's the time management? Actually, like Deysi got faster. At
Yeah.
least that's what it feels like.
Yeah, she's been thinking for a while on this move, so she's dipping underneath Stefanova again. But I think the bigger issue is just this position is so hard to play with white. Your pieces are either buried or extremely scattered. So how does she just kind of consolidate, get things back together? Well, that makes sense. That's a move, bringing a piece back. But b5 wins, right? Just win a piece. Yeah, that's a problem.
And
that's a
a7 is hanging with a check.
Yeah, that's the problem with these loose pieces. In a blitz game, it's very difficult to defend them all. I mean, that's all there is to it. And one of them is going to go. Rook d5 doesn't seem to do much because you could actually play queen takes a7 check anyway, and then take back on d5, and then you win even more material. Actually resigning then.
Yeah, I don't see much of a choice. Maybe bishop d4 still gives some chances, but objectively not, but swindling chances with a lot of fantasy.
Yeah, this is going to be a big win for Antoaneta because 8 points to 3 points, huge, as we've only got 24 minutes left in the 3 minutes. That's still a lot of time. That's still a lot of games. But Cori really has to go on quite a streak. And look at their faces. Antoaneta, it's still super serious, even though it looks like she's totally winning. Well, that is a good way to be, because in blitz, you never know. You always have to stay focused until the game is over.
So now I take on h5, and I pretend that I have some counterplay.
Yeah, you have some confidence. Rook d4. Oh. What if she's just gonna play remember queen a7 and you can't even get out of this pin because the bishop on
Yes, it
a3
may
stops
happen.
it.
Yes, and you just predicted it.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. There's no way out, and you can't protect the rook with a pawn either. Now a move like knight f6 looks g5 check. I found one way to lose it, or to make it interesting.
But the funny part is probably even then you are still winning.
Probably, yeah. I just made it more interesting. She's like knight e7, looking to go to the c6 square, and queen e6, but d4 is hanging.
Right.
So
there's no g5 check as a trick. Well, there is, and queen takes h3, but it doesn't help because I can play simply king h7 is maybe safer because of the king g7. There's queen e5 check.
And black wins by resignation. Great game there by Stefanova, who now has 8 points to Cori's 3.
+5 is a number, of course.
Yeah, +5 is a big score. And we got another Sicilian. Last time we saw b3. And we see b3 again. And you pointed out
queen e2 here, I think, is stronger. But
queen e2 as opposed to knight c3.
Yeah.
But you pointed out that this is a nice way for black to play, forcing the knight on c3, blocking the diagonal.
Yes, but a6 as we already pointed out, it's probably not necessary.
Yeah, I just find this position a little scary for Cori in a blitz game because she's got so many moves left to castle three, and that's if everything goes as planned, right?
Mm.
If White does something unexpected that brings a threat, you have even more moves until you get to get that king into the out of the center. And last time, if you recall, she played for like Queen C7 and Bishop D6 um, to at least gain a little bit of a tempo against H2
Yes,
along
but
the way.
actually, the setup Antoaneta here chooses is not the safest, let's say, on the black squares.
Different this time. Last time she did not play this move F3. So maybe
Yeah.
she's gearing up to castle queenside this time.
Okay, bishop c5 still, like, I mean, I would be happy if you're going queenside. I have more attacking chances. But
True.
now I have the choice. But okay, bishop b4 is actually maybe a threat.
So Antoaneta played A3, stopping bishop B4. Last time Cori also got a good position in this. Like, do you remember she stuck her bishop on E5 and she had a very pleasant position.
That's true, yeah.
So it's odd that in some ways Antoaneta seems to be getting better positions with black in many cases than she's getting with white. At least when Cori plays a Sicilian.
Yes, actually, I think she should have played the Sicilian in much more often games because, I mean, it gave her at least a much better positions.
Instead of the Scandi, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Knight takes D5, exactly. I mean, this is the kind of fun Sicilian position that we like to see. Castles. I mean, there's still a lot of trades, so it's not as wild as some Sicilians. But black gets in that move D5, which is usually a very good sign in the Sicilian. G3, stopping knight F4. But what's going on here? What about a crazy move like knight E3 here? How's that? I don't think it was very good because you probably just take and then
Yes.
play King A1.
And
But
then there was not a check.
yeah, there wasn't enough there. But just keeping our eye on things, just gotta make sure.
Whew.
Knight
That
B4 played. Okay, takes.
actually, like, maybe there was like knight c3 instead of. I know that the queen was hanging, actually, yeah. Okay, here black should at some point make some kind of heir to the king because rook d8 could be interesting, but for now it doesn't work.
She played rook C7, just
Doubling
delaying
on
that
the
because
c
she's trying
file.
to triple on the C file, rook behind. But you're right, she's gonna need that luft, as we call it. And she's
Luft, you call it Luft?
oh, that's a German word, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We
Really,
just
I didn't know that you call it Luft because I mean, like, I know that there's side note and Zugzwang, but I didn't know there was Luft as well.
yeah, we do. We do. That's a big one for Americans. I think with kids they might learn like air hole or something.
You know,
But
in German it's Luftloch. So basically, if you add the Loch, then actually you have the perfect German
what's
chess term.
Luftloch?
Yes, Luftloch. It's like the air hole.
The air hole. Okay. Yeah. So Luftloch. That sounds cool. I like that.
And you say it in a very nice way.
Uh-oh. Don't know if that's sarcastic or not,
No,
but
it's very cute in the accent.
exaggerated. Yeah. Bishop to
Mm.
D5. I like this beautiful queen on E5. I
This
like this
is true,
beautiful queen
actually,
on
but still
E5.
the position is quite tricky because White's king looks safe, but maybe sometimes the ideas with a5 before. Premature now, but the position is still far from clear, I would
Maybe
say.
maybe she can play to rearrange her pieces and get no, I think we need the queen for defense there, but I was thinking rook c6, rook c7, queen c8, try to get the rooks ahead of the queen and put some real pressure on c3. Queen b6, okay, looking to kind of tickle maybe.
Yes, you should change the queens because still the White's king is not very safe, but soon the Black's king will be in trouble too after she manages g5.
Yeah, it's just the queen is such a wonderful piece. It's those dark squares because black doesn't have any dark squares and doesn't have the dark squared bishop or knights, and the pawns are on these light squares. The queen on d4 and e5 just looks like a goddess. It's like all these power squares.
Yeah, now actually we will see some piece trades, which are unavoidable. But if I change everything in this position, I would say actually white is better because of positional means with a pawn on b5 and a6. But
Right, and this king is a little closer to the action. Here we
yeah, but I
go.
think Deysi should change pieces, everything.
40 seconds left for both sides. This is going to get wild if everything isn't traded, but you're thinking just queen d7.
Now queen d7 actually could make a point because this h5, g5 can turn out to be rather weak than strong then.
Maybe I don't trade queens though. I play queen e3. Again, even though you have that file, you can't easily use it, and I'm still going to be gunning for that e5 square.
Yeah, and then queen d5 as an option to hold the square. The funny part is h6 doesn't threat anything. But now actually like queen d4 was not necessary to miss.
Yeah, not necessarily to allow, you mean, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, because this is like, I mean, maybe black can defend this, but it's a headache and you have 7 seconds. Good luck.
f5 only move, right?
Yeah, but this little creepy moves with the queen. It's not fun to defend against with 6 seconds. I don't like that. Oh, although maybe she has queen g2. Maybe.
Okay, queen f7, king h7. These are moves she is forced to play. And then, okay, either you protect or not.
Good move. Look at that. She goes from the weakness, like you're tying down these pieces over here, and Antoaneta goes on the other side. What's going on here? Queen e5, beautiful move again. This pawn is just too powerful. She's just queen h8 and making a queen is possible. But it didn't matter because anything was enough that Cori was in big trouble as Antoaneta was about to make a second queen, and she had more time than her opponent. What beautiful play by Antoaneta Stefanova.
So now she's +6, which is quite a statement.
I really like her name is so musical, Antoaneta Stefanova. It's like it almost like it's rhyming. It's a very beautifully constructed name. 4 syllables in each. Yeah. It is a longer name, Antoaneta, and she does go by Eti. So that is the name for Antoaneta.
That's a short form apparently in Bulgarian language. So
yeah, because if you use the first part of the name, you would say auntie, and that's not that nice. I mean, I love poker, but that's not a good nickname. Eti is certainly better, and Ellie is
the German version of the short form. Ellie or Betty well, there are thousands of nicknames actually with my name. So
which one do you like the most?
It's hard to say. It depends a bit. I mean, probably Lizzie, but this is like not typical for Germans because this is a kind of English American version. But that's what I think fits best from the nicknames. But Ellie is what they call me in Germany as a short form. So, well,
Lizzie it is, as that's the one you like the most. So, and especially from coming from Americans, you're probably used to it. So what's going on here? Cori's lost a pawn, but she has some really nice compensation because the king's address is very unclear here. I mean, putting it over here is
e4 here is an interesting move, or even bishop takes e5, fe5, and now e4, because d5 is hanging. If you take, I will play it positionally on the white squares with queen e2. So bishop takes c5, e4 is nice.
Blast. I mean, our queen h5 check's not the end of the world because of bishop g6, but it's more about all the energy of the pieces, and this piece is very, very sad here on g7. So nice play so far by Cori, but whoa, she's spending a lot of time here.
She should be quicker, and it's clear that she has to play e4 and bishop takes e5 in a way, because if Black will manage with bishop g6 and castle, she plugs the pawn up. Right. So e4 immediately. But the difference is like that after d takes e4, I mean, the queens could be exchanged, which is still not something to worry about, but I would have preferred the version with the queens on the board.
All right, d takes c4.
Now bishop takes e5, I will take on d1 and f takes e5. And this way, at least I don't have to worry about my king. That's why actually it would have been nicer. But okay, now she plays knight takes e4 and she wants to play dynamically. But maybe I have time to move my knight to d7, as strange as it may look. I know there's knight d6 check, actually. It's not so easy. Maybe knight
d6 check is an annoying idea, isn't it? So she felt compelled to castle, and now queen b3 check quickly, as Cori needs to be quick.
Yes, and then I can take on e5 and on b7 still or something. Or rook d1.
Rook d1. I like just increasing the pressure. Bishop e5 now is a big threat, as we'd be looking down at your queen. So queen c7 played. Can I get away with bishop c5? Well, she's done it. That's what I wanted, because now I'm looking at playing bishop to d6 no matter what you play. And then the g5 pawn will hopefully be hanging at the end of the line. Bishop
yes,
e5,
but you could have taken immediately on e5. I know you couldn't because of queen takes e5.
Yeah, that's why she's going down this maneuver. But okay, if bishop d6, what about queen f7? I wasn't really intending on trading queens. So knight d6 actually was Cori's choice instead, looking at b7 and looking at the bishop on f5 as well.
Yeah, but now at least if I take on b7, I exchange the queens, but she's not intending to exchange queens ever. Instead, she puts pressure, which is generally good.
She continues the attack, but look at Stefanova. She has a minute and a half.
Against 20 seconds, which is not a good time management. And that's why actually, I would have preferred to play it more positionally.
No, she's furiously calculating here. It is Cori, as she finds that queen takes b7 works out. And I mean, she's only got 13 seconds, but it's become easier to play with the queens off the board. And the rook is just so active after rook d7. I mean, you talk about easy to play. Yes. That's a move. All B4, chess players are going to feel good about pounding down.
b4 and knight, for example, to d6 or to a5. Yeah. Now f5 could be a threat.
Oh, no trades, she says. Rook c7. I'm sure black would like to play something like bishop f8 here. But maybe she'll just take on c6. Knight b7 instead.
Well, this changes now some pieces, which is definitely helping black.
Certainly a bit of a sigh of relief there, as she gets her first active rook of the game. Oh no, okay, for now it's okay. I hallucinated rook g2 and bishop b4, but that's not possible yet because the knight guards that square.
But now the rook gets to c2 perhaps, and this is actually something.
Yes, knight d7, that's right, rook c2, and look at black's pieces. It's like the initiative has changed hands completely.
Hoops. And rook c1
check. And now rook takes f2, and Stefanova is winning the bishop on f1. Oh no. She's thinking though. What's the reason for her thinking here?
Well, you can also think if your opponent has 1.6 seconds to make another move which is not expected to flag her. You can have these thoughts.
I see. Well, that's some good insight into the psychology, as we look like we're probably going to get 2 more games here. We've got 7.5 minutes on the clock, and look at that, 2-6-6-6-6. As Antoaneta is definitely up to devilish tricks in this match. She's got 10 points, double digits here, and Cori has 3. So probably 2 more games in the 3-minute. Cori would have to sweep the table, I think, in the bullet to come back.
That's true, yeah.
And another Scandi, we've commented that it seems like she's getting better positions in the Sicilian, but she's sticking with it. She's kind of alternating, maybe alternating 60%, 70% this Scandi, and the rest of the time trying the Sicilian. Kind of wish it was the other way around based on the games that she's getting. Last time we saw this, Queen E6 checks was played, a little clever move designed to win against almost every move. But unfortunately for black, Queen E6 check, Bishop E3 is really good for white because the Queen on E6, doesn't end up that
Well,
wonderful.
bishop on F8 then is also blocked. Maybe I can try Queen B4, Queen B6. What do you think? Something like that.
Yeah, I'd like to try something different because I don't think Queen E6 check is very good. Bishop E3, and it's the kind of move that if you're playing against a much weaker player, maybe it'll strike them off balance and they'll lose immediately, but not Stefanova. So she did try your idea, Ellie or Lizzie, as we've determined is the favored nickname.
95 here, perhaps? Oh, no, then there's Bishop D2. It doesn't bring much, right? Queen takes B2 as a pawn, but it's a risky business. Because I can simply play Bishop D2. I still have to play, I bet, after Queen takes B2. Because knight A4 looks a little bit risky, even so it seems possible. But probably you should take on B2. I'm taking on F3. That's right.
Took on F3.
And knight C6. Okay.
Kays and Kodal points out that Stefanova was beaten by Abdumalik in spectacular fashion to earn her grandmaster title. You should check out that game in the Scotch. Yes, shout out to Abdumalik. That's awesome that she did earn that GM title. I think that brings it to 38 women in the world who have the grandmaster title. I'm sure chat will quickly correct me if I'm off.
I wanted to say giving numbers is always a risky business.
Hey, the worst you can be is wrong.
Actually, I would have bet on D5 because this is apparently Antoaneta's favorite move in the Scandinavian, right?
Yes, she's played it so many times, even situations where we haven't really loved it. But in this case, it seems quite promising.
Yeah, here it looks better than in the other cases, indeed. But now I can play knight d5, right? And then knight gets to c4.
Yeah, and that is a nice square. She's played bishop g2 though, but remember, your queen is under some peril here because they're not that excited about taking on b2, right? That's not really something that you're after anymore.
No, you don't want that really because you weaken the b file. It's like a pawn I can voluntarily give away.
But what do we do now? Because it's not the b pawn you're after. You're trying to like take on d2 and then play e6 or something like that. So she just calmly castles.
Yeah, maybe e6 immediately. Wait. Okay, e6. Maybe there's bishop e1, which is a bit tricky, but probably not tricky enough, right? So e6 looks like a decent choice, or knight e2 and then probably e6.
Don't take on b2. Do not take on b2 right away. Okay, so e6, yes. And now you're trying to take on d5 for sure. Okay, so what do we do here for white? She's played a3, tickles the queen. And now knight a4 and c4. Can we get away with that? I don't think so because you have queen b5.
Yeah.
Now, Stefanova is ahead so much in the match. She could play knight a4, queen b5, knight c3.
That's a good choice. But after knight a4, can I play queen d6?
Yeah. Queen d6, and then after c4, you just take on d5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does Stefanova do here? She's played g4. Okay, what's the trick? I mean, black's going to win a pawn, right?
Yeah. h6.
No, she did not take a pawn.
I mean, she wants to take on d5 as a pawn, that's why. And after pawn takes d5, there was maybe g5 move.
So I still want to take that pawn. Got to do something.
Yeah, but if I take now, there's queen f5 check. I think this is an idea, right?
So that's why she's played king b8. Got her queen out of all the potential checks. I mean, her king, rather. when you castle queenside, your king isn't really castled till it's on b8. Some people like to think. Knight a4,
Actually,
queen a5.
yeah. Can I now take on d5 as a pawn? Yes, probably I can.
Yeah, now you can. c4, don't take it. There's queen b7 mate. But bishop d6, much better choice, no doubt. And she's taken the pawn back.
Rook e8. Still black should be better. Queen c5.
You're
Getting
trying to
the
get
queen.
that. Yeah, you want to get that queen back over to the other side, don't you?
I want to get the queen to f4. I am very modest. That's why queen c5. But actually, like, okay, she wants rook b6, but this is a risky business maybe against the e file. So, I mean, I don't like the way Cori coordinates.
Look at this. Speaking of risky business, f4, as we've got a 20-second game, both players with 20 seconds.
Mouse slip.
No, a mouse slip. First mouse slip. Oh,
yeah.
Our first mouse slip of the day. Hopefully our last. And that allows us to get one more 3-minute game in, as they've got 1 minute left on this clock. Hey, Raj Cosmos.
Yes, mouse slips are terrible feelings, I can tell from my own experience.
Yeah, they are. They are. You know, that was a tough one because it was getting really interesting. And then she, of course, meant to play queen c5 check, but she played queen b5 by accident. It happens to everyone. And you just got to hope that it happens to you less than it happens to your average opponent.
That's true. You know, actually, like now there was this kind of hybrid tournament. I don't know of the European Men's Championship, and there was a match between some young Polish or Czech Republic grandmaster against Gelfand, and Gelfand did a mouse slip, and actually the opponent offered a draw, which was probably the most sportish behavior I've seen in many, many years.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Because the mouse slip would have lost the queen and Gelfand could resign. And even in hybrid, it happens when you have in the classical time control a lot of time.
Was that the one that got the wild card as a result of that?
This I don't know. It could be that he got a wild card.
What was his name?
I don't remember the name. Probably Chet knows, but it was a young guy either from Czech Republic or from Poland, but I believe, or Slovakia, but from one of these three countries. But he offered a draw, but I don't know how the tiebreak actually eventually went. But I remember it hit the news because it was, well, one of the most sportmen kind of, I don't know how you call it in English, but it was something.
You call it like that. Sporting. I love to see it. You know, I really think that it's so important because there is, of course, a lot of examples of people violating fair play, sadly. Not that many at the highest level, but there are some. And I think that really acknowledging and recognizing when people are going above and beyond fair play might be a good way to teach children to be super fair, that you can get rewarded for it. You know, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but that one day those
karma is with you if you believe in karma, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not always. It's not like every time you do something good, like you're gonna get a wild card or like an article written about you. But the idea is just that you see it happening, and you see that as like one of the values. I mean, to me, that's one of the points of the game like chess. You know, that when everything is on the line, how do you behave? Not just the quality of your moves, but how you treat other people.
Yeah.
Rook c8 played, attacking the knight on c4. Yeah,
and the knight on b3 guards c1. Yeah.
Yes, the Slovak GM Perchak responds with gracious draw after says sometimes SH. So Perchak was the name. And the Rio Greco says that we used to give out sportsmanship trophies, but those are out of style these days. Bring it back. Love it. Random acts of kindness. XYZ.
Actually, like I think in online chess, it's the best chance to get like this kind of sportsman trophies, because this is the only category where you can really like do something unfortunate like a mouse slip or an internet lost connection where you don't have much of an influence on, right? In OTB chess, I don't know what you can do as a sportsmanship in comparison. There are not so many opportunities, right?
Yeah, I guess it would be like a combination of sportsmanship and congeniality, just, being nice to people. There was a great story about uh Olympio Urkan posted on his Twitter the nicest people in chess, and there was a story about Navarra and how he's always so courteous with the people who are setting up the chessboards and cleaning them. Yeah, so I think there are some opportunities. You'll find them if you give a prize. Chess players. They're competitive about ordering a sandwich. They'll find ways to be competitive about being a good sport. now that I say it, I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. But okay, this should be a draw, right? I mean,
no, I lose the b5 pawn. It's far from
really?
draw.
I thought I could play rook d8 check, bishop f6, and rook d7 and win a pawn back. But the thing is, your pawn is so much stronger than mine, and I have to make luft to start off. So I guess I can start with h3, and then after rook b5, I don't win my pawn anymore, huh?
No.
And if I play rook f8, you just have king g6.
Yeah, it's just a pawn for nothing, a pawny pawn.
Yep, that's a good pawn. So Stefanova looking to make it 3-12 going into the bullet. Well, that is an unbeatable lead.
Actually, how much time is in the bullet?
25 minutes.
Which means actually, like, in 25 minutes, one game lasts, let's say, 2.5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
He can to lower down a -8 score. No, it's no -8 now. It would be -9. It's almost impossible already.
No, and it's more than 2.5 minutes, I think, right? With a 1 second ink. A lot of games will take 3 minutes, I think.
Yes, so basically it's impossible already. Even if she would win all games, because she can maximum play 9 games. 8 games.
If Cori wins this game, like if somebody hangs a rook.
Yes, okay, if she wins this game, she still have chances, but if she loses this game, then she cannot make -9 even, because she will not manage to play 9 games, right? If one game lasts 3 minutes, as you say, just by calculation.
Yes, but there is at least a consolation for Cori if she can, get closer in the bullet, and maybe even win the bullet portion itself. Some man is pointing out that Magnus played some e5, queen g5, queen d2 to level a match after a disconnection. I believe that was Lifting Laurent earlier, maybe in 2020.
Yeah, no, I don't remember this, but I heard something like that. But now actually it's e5, and then after king f is almost mate, it looks very suspicious.
Yeah, it does. Where's the mate, guys? Where's the
rook
mate?
f2? Rook f2 is a mate.
That's a good one, yeah.
Okay, no, it's not a mate yet because there's rook b3, but it looks like rook g3 has the same idea. And check.
No, there's f6.
f6 and g6. Ah, no, there's king and rook f4 and g6. That was missed.
Oh, okay. Things are now open again. 10 seconds left for each player. It's obviously Stefanova is winning. She's running g6, but the king is pinned at the moment, so you can't actually play g6 right now. But black won by timeout, and she increases her lead to 12-3. What a majestic performance by Antoaneta Stefanova so far. But we are going to go to a little break as we get to the bullet portion, which no matter who wins is always the most heart-thumping of the competition. True. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Women's Speed Chess Championships presented by FIDE on Chess.com. I'm Jennifer Shahadi. I've been analyzing all day with the wonderful international master Elizabeth Pates. And wow, Stefanova is off to such a big start in this match. But before we get back to that, I want to give a shout out to the Junior Speed Chess Championships, which is starting on July 4th. And if you like the combative style that is going on here in the Women's Speed Chess Championships, you are definitely in for some more fun with the Junior Speed Chess Championships because they also play for blood. And that will be presented by Chess.com and ChessKit. But let's get back into this match as we are now about to watch the fastest part with our bullet competition. 1 minute with a 1 second increment is going to be starting momentarily. Cori will have to win almost every game to make the match close, but I don't even think there's enough time for that, Lizzie.
No, I think even if she wins all the games, she will not manage it because the score is 12-3, right?
Yeah, she would have to have some very quick checkmates. But
Yeah.
of course, Stefanova will use some strategy in that regard. And, this is the part where the player who's ahead, if it gets remotely close, will, make sure that it takes as long as possible for their opponent to mate them.
Yeah, but okay. I mean, like, I would at least wish for good, let's say, or like a good way of a finish that Cori wins the section, even though she won't win the match, right?
Agreed.
So she has some better thoughts or like a better feeling.
Agreed. I would like to see that too. It looks like they're getting ready to go as we see the final position from our 3-1 game here. And here we are off. And Stefanova plays e4 and knew Cori had been mostly tangling with the Scandinavian and the Sicilian, but she goes for the modern defense this game. Makes sense because you can play all your moves really quickly.
Yeah, modern actually I also like to play in 1 minute bullet chess because you get a lot of moves done automatically.
Exactly. And white often has to play actively to get that edge. And look at this, h5, just going for it, d5. Already, I'm liking the way that Cori is approaching this bullet match.
Yes, now we will see.
Yeah, and that's how she should see it as a new match because that's going to give her the most chances of making this score look a little prettier.
Yeah.
As what's going on now? Look at this great structure for white. Bishop g5, these pawns are just so upsetting.
Upsetting is a very nice way to put it.
Yeah. I have a 4-year-old, so I'm always trying to avoid the words that I don't want him to say. Yes. Okay. Well, this is also extremely upsetting in the dark squares. It looks like Antoaneta is off to a very good start because the problem with this bishop pair here is really the dark squares are just completely dominated. And in order to save any semblance of her position, Cori just said, go ahead and take on a8. But Stefanova wants mate.
Well, which is actually not unusual in this kind of positions, right?
And look at this. All the pieces are flying away as Stefanova wins the first game of the bullet, 13-3. She has a 10-point advantage on Cori. That's not fun. Let's see if the next game is a little more fun.
Yes, but besides that, probably like also objectively speaking, if you have such a down score and you have no more chances, the motivation might not be the highest, right? So it will be very difficult to motivate yourself.
Maybe, but I feel like chess players are so competitive and it's a bullet game. So it's not like you have to sit there suffering in a bad rook end game. You just have to play moves. I think it's more like her confidence is shaken. So that might be more of the factor. I mean, I don't know. I'm not inside her head, but I think that might be a big factor here as well as just motivation.
Yes, but I'm trying also to read body language, right?
Yeah. It's difficult. It's difficult.
Yeah.
That's why chess is like in chess matches are so brutal. It's like I also play poker and it's like heads up poker. It is tough to be playing against the same component who has your number that day because you have to keep playing You know, you have to keep playing and you have to do your best, but it's psychologically very tough. And that's why
It's
I
very tough.
admire people who put themselves out there. You know, you when you put yourself on the line like this, you risk that, you know, doing horribly. And when it happens, you gotta get over it. And I'm sure Cori has many good results in front of her, but this is not one of them today.
That's true. It's not her day for sure.
But can she win this game? You know, one game at a time. Rook C1. She's looking to play C5, expand, get that nice little pass pawn that actually Stefanova punished her with in one of her games, one of her many wins.
Yeah, we will rather see a rook string and an idea to mate. Even so, I think like you should play on the wing where you have the pawn majority as a kind of basic rule. So it makes more sense to push b4 and maybe hit c5 at some moment when it's good. But definitely I would not try to play on the king side. I would really try to play on the queen side because this is my strong wing.
Yeah, because you have more pawns over there. But overall,
Yeah, but
I mean,
I mean, such things usually backfire because you really like disturb your coordination.
yeah, and I don't like having to take that bishop off. That's never fun.
Yeah.
But tactics could be in the air here. You know, you need to watch out for black as there is this battery along the b file. Knight f5 played.
Okay, e5 was not necessary to give the square, but probably still fine. But now at least I have a superior knight. But yeah.
Yeah, the knight is a beautiful minor piece here. And now queen g4 threatening knight takes h6 check. Knight coming into d6. Looks like this could be could be Cori's game as c5. Now queen h7 is now in the position as well. Of course, the rook was in take, so maybe not right away.
Queen h7 now would have worked.
And there, she stopped it, has Stefanova. She played g6. But we still have that extra pawn, and what a juicy pawn it is on d6. It's just about staying ahead on the clock too, though.
She should play h5 as a principle of two weakness, creating another weakness on the king side, right?
That's
so
right. But first she has to make sure she doesn't lose d6. She's having trouble coordinating here. Maybe rook d4. Yeah, that looks nice. So the rook and the queen defend each other and then play h5 at that right moment, as
Oof,
Lizzie is pounding the table for her. Ooh, rook f7, but she's giving up the goodie. She's giving up the better pawn, which is not what we wanted. But look at this. Stefanova is actually the one on high pressure in this pawning game. What has this been calculated? How do you calculate a pawning game in a bullet game?
Well, actually, like I would dare to say it hasn't been calculated.
You dare to say, oh my gosh. But you know, it does look like the problem here is that it's not just the pawns, it's our tempi, right? The thing about having the extra pawn, it's not just to make a queen, it's that we have this tempo with f3 that is going to strike Stefanova's opposition. That is the problem.
Yes, f5 and king f4 and now f3.
F3, that's the key, that extra tempo. The extra pawn was not to make a queen, it was to get that one tempo. My kingdom for a tempo, as the wonderful Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan has often said to me.
Yeah.
And
but
here it is.
Now is lost, even so. Queen
and also she's also flagging Antoaneta, it seems, a little bit here. She's down to her last moments, and Cori has won a game. It's certainly a sigh of relief for her many fans, as it's been a tough day for her, and that was a cool finish. She calculated everything in the pawning game.
Yeah, for sure.
No, you know, actually, coincidentally, I have a weekly girls club for my US Chess Women program, and today we have a class on pawning game. So
wow.
Shout out to any ladies from US Chess Women in the chat. Identify yourself, because we are looking at pawning games tonight. And we've got another Sicilian in which Antoaneta has been struggling a little bit. Cori's been getting some good positions. Let's see how it works out this time.
Yeah, finally. Oof. That's an interesting one, but I have the F file, which gives me some pressure. Maybe even so, okay, after castle, the F file is not of our concern. Actually, like in pawn endings, one of the most important thing is any rules about opposition, because usually the one who loses the opposition is mostly losing the game, with maybe
Yeah.
very, very few exceptions.
Yeah, the pawn games are a very interesting realm in chess for sure, because you have to calculate really well. But then you also need,
Yeah.
it's also great if you have these little building blocks of memorized positions so that you can, make your calculations a little more efficient.
Yeah, or like even like cutting down your calculations by knowing I'm in the magic square, I will hold the pawn. I don't have to calculate whether this is true or not because I know I'm in the square.
But the
Or like
key
that.
thing
Yeah.
for bullet games and very fast blitz games, when you're winning, the key thing is don't get into a pawn end game unless you're 100% sure it's winning.
That's true.
Because you don't have time to calculate it. So that's where you really need those building blocks. Now, speaking of end games, we've got another one on tap here. And it looks like Cori has done well for herself. She has a massive time edge. And I think she'll try to play this for a win just on that basis alone.
But you know what is so strange? In the 1 minute section, she's clearly faster. But in the 3 and 5 minute section, actually, her biggest problem was the time management. This doesn't make sense to me. Maybe she can
Yeah.
play like these categories like a bullet game.
Yeah, it happens. It is a feature of number of players. I think it's just that when people are given a choice whether to think or play quickly, sometimes they choose to play slower. But in bullet, there is no choice. You know that the name of the game, I mean, it's in the name, lightning bullet. You're told you must play fast. So, they have no choice and then they play quick and they show what they can do. I think that's part of it. There's so many examples of people who are absolutely amazing blitz players, but
Yeah.
somehow they get into lots of time pressures in their game. And it's a little baffling, but it happens a lot. If you people in the chat want to mention some examples of that, please do. Oh, I obviously the famous one is Grishok, right? But
Yeah.
if you have any other examples, put them in. What's
Wow,
going
now
on
they are
here?
really tight on time.
Queen H1 was threatening mate, so it looks like they're going for a draw here.
Yeah.
And some very interesting games here. Very well played by Stefanova today. I don't think Cori, her openings maybe weren't the greatest today, but overall, I don't think her play she wasn't blundering much. She had that horrible mouse slip. I think mostly the credit today for this lopsided score is not Cori playing badly, but Antoaneta just playing fantastic blitz, very practical, very strong.
Yes, practically stronger, and also by understanding she is stronger in terms of she's coordinating better, because in a like a short time control, like maneuvering is one of the most essential tools, because if you see or spot quickly where the piece has to be in order to be perfectly placed, this is of course like one of the biggest milestones in quick time controls.
And E4 now played, and you're right. I mean, look at this. Cori is looking great in this game because her position is sweet. And she's got over a minute, more than she started with. Antoaneta has 35 seconds left.
So rook
So,
d1 now, and then maybe I have knight d6 as one option, or rook d3, and I will swing myself to the mate.
Oh, yeah, both very compelling options. Oh, yeah, a very nice position for white. And I think we can even play knight d6 here because at the end of the day, knight d6, bishop d6, pawn d6, rook d6, we have bishop e5.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, this is a very nice looking position for white.
Now it looks more and more dangerous, even though following the scale by Chess.com, the position is fine, but it looks at least very dangerous.
It just probably means black has some kind of defense that is not that easy to find, but it looks like Antoaneta
found it. Yeah.
Yeah, she found it. F6, not an easy move to make because a lot of things are in take, but sometimes for great players, when the pressure is on, they find the only move, right?
Yeah, that's a useful tool, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like we would have some tactic here, but Cori didn't find it and just lashed out with h4. But here, unfortunately, unlike before, we don't have bishop e5. That's the point, that pawn on f6 prevents it. Oh, but bishop a3. Oh, nice one. Nice
Bishop
one.
a3 can be an upsetting point, and there's queen b6.
That was the idea, I take it.
But then there is queen c4 check, and you have knight e6 check, but then still like you lose material.
Yes, queen c4, knight e6 check, and then you can just play king h2 or something, and you're still got the pin that you win with.
Yes, but
so all of that was missed, but white is still ahead. White is still ahead on time, and the pawns are equal though, so it'll probably be a draw.
Yes.
Oh, well, wait, what's going on now? Rook e2 check. That's a bit annoying. Got to make sure that we get all the pawns we need to score this draw, and indeed,
yes, this is looking like a draw.
A tough one for Cori because she was looking really good in this game. But hey,
that's true.
Hey, what are you gonna do? Another draw, another nice save by Antoaneta Stefanova. By the way, look at their bullet ratings, exactly the same. So we don't even have to look at the score. We can just see who has more rating by the end to see who won the bullet portion.
But now
so
in the
far
bullet
it's even,
portion,
right?
yes, I wanted to ask you, in the bullet portion, they're even now, because that's what I saw.
Yeah.
In the bullet portion, she will not do worse. That's what was my statement before the match started.
I think she's going to win the bullet portion.
Yeah, I also believe that. I mean, I would also put my stakes into her in this section.
Just because it just seems like she's better with the mouse speed. I mean, look at the situation now. She has an extra 10 seconds. That's significant in bullet, you know? Just from the opening stage.
So rook d1.
E5, okay. So there's pros and cons of this move. It cripples black. It gains a big space advantage. But it also gives black this nice square on f5, looking to attack the d4 square. But that is why white has that rook on d1. So it kind of takes the edge off. Okay, a3, prophylactic move, stopping queen to b4.
Yes, it could be at some point annoying in order to attack the pawn on d4, but a3 usually weakens the c4 square, which was now perfectly exploited. So there are pros and cons about being prophylactic sometimes.
Indeed. I found myself falling for that many times, playing a3 to stop something on b4 and then knight a5, knight c4. It's always so annoying. So rook f1, nice. She's gearing up, winding up for f5.
Yes, f5 unfortunately looks like a very, very annoying move I don't want to face, especially in the bullet game.
No, this looks absolutely wonderful. And look at that, rook d1, a calm move before calculating anything. She just defends everything. That is one of the reasons she's got so many points in this match.
f6, f takes g6 was possible too. Can I play knight e2 with a tempo, attacking b3 and then bringing my knight to f4?
You could. Stefanova just chose rook f4, but she is down on time here. So this game could go any way. Any which way is possible here, that's for sure.
Maybe I can take on d4 and on e5, but okay, and it's pretty much sure, but it looked...
And she tries your idea now, knight e2, improving the knight, trying to get into that f4 square, knight d2, well spotted. Cori trying to keep things interesting, bringing the pieces into the game.
Yeah, there was also knight e4, but okay, the knight on c4 is doing great. Queen f5, that's, well, I wanted to say this is essential, but probably it was not.
Oh no, it looks like Antoaneta is
it's not easy yet.
Not easy, yes. No, because it looked like black managed to finagle back a pawn.
But still, like, there's no mating threat because I can't get rook g1 and protecting h2 in the same moment. That's upsetting news. And
white wins as Cori has resigned in this position. And how many more games do they have? It looks like they have 7 minutes left on the clock. So at least probably 3 more games, most likely.
3 more games, I guess, unless like someone plunders earlier. But yeah.
So we have something we haven't seen yet. Joko piano.
Yes, it's actually the first time Cori plays e4. But I think if I remember right, she's a d4 player. I mean, mainly.
You know, we're trying to keep it interesting. As always, they switch up the openings a little bit in the blitz portion, or the bullet portion rather. As it's also a good, I think it's a good psychological strategy to switch up openings in the bullet, because it can be a bit of a disruption in flow of your opponent, right? You're like, they're expecting you to play one of the things you played in the longer time controls. And then even that like 2 or 3 second like mind frame to react can help you, right?
Yeah. Playing gambits also might be tempting in especially in blitz games. But okay, now actually I wonder if there's compensation for the pawn she sacrificed after taking on d4 by black.
Yeah, it doesn't quite seem like there's a lot right now, because black has a lot of trumps, even though they're down a pawn. She has a nice bishop on a7. Her
Black's
pieces are all
solid.
developed. Yeah. And a lot of the times when we gambit a pawn, it's like our a3 to f8 diagonal means something. I would love to put my bishop on b2, but in order to activate it, I'd have to play c4, which would kill my other bishop.
But you know, there was a very nice tactical trick with playing e5, and after the knight takes, you take on h6, and you have queen g6 check.
Nice.
But this was stopped after knight e5 actually. But there was this kind of tactical pattern.
That is an important pattern. Thinking about that bishop on b3, it's so strong because of those potential tactics on g6.
Ooh, the scale goes up and down. But now rook d1. Okay, a5 is hanging. Wow, that doesn't look good for Deysi.
No, e4 is also hanging now. And then f2 is going to hang as well. So that is the problem. As she goes underneath 15 seconds, underneath Antoaneta's time. What a powerful performance by Antoaneta. Bishop h4 finally played. And queen f8 quickly in reply.
Getting out of the pin, because now e4 is hanging.
And she's going to take it.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I don't see what is wrong.
She's going to have to play like rook e4 here. She's dominant. Yeah, she has to play rook e4, because she cannot. Now at least she can try to play queen g3, maybe make black think once or twice in the game. And if that happens, she could lose on time. But rook e6, another excellent idea.
Yes, guarding the weakest spots, which is g7, h6.
Exactly. Very nice move. And these types of defensive moves are the reason that, Antoaneta is saving a lot of bad positions. Not that this was a bad one. This was a good one, but white won by timeout. So actually Antoaneta flagged this game in a position where she was doing quite well. Not something we've seen a lot of in this match. Usually she does not flag. I think that was actually the first flag. And so far we have an even match in the bullet, I believe.
Yeah, but okay, the match basically is still over by the score.
Oh yes. We've only got 2 games left. We've probably got 2 games left in this, unless this one is very, very long. And Antoaneta has 15 points to Cori's 6. So a dominant performance by the former women's world champion, the grandmaster from Bulgaria.
That's true. I mean, that's a score actually, like, which we didn't have yet, right? In all the kind of final knockouts. This kind of massive difference.
Really impressive. Yeah. And I'm sure whoever's playing Antoaneta next is going to have a tough match on their hands as well. I think we looked at the bracket. It's going to be the winner of the game between
Lei, Tinge, and Varshalia.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And if she plays like this, Antoaneta will be the favorite, I think. But, it's also hard to tell because, when your opponent is not in form and playing a little bit slower, maybe it can make her look even more in form than she is against somebody who's also in form. So we'll see. But I've been really blown away by her speed and accuracy, and also just her ability not to blunder.
That's crucial, not to blunder, right?
Yeah, she makes some mistakes, but like the bar goes down. She doesn't find the quickest win. Of course, she splits. Who would expect it? But like, how many blunders has she actually played? I don't think I've seen many.
So
So the knight would normally be a really nice piece here because the bishop's pawns are in its same color, but it doesn't really have a clear square to go to, right? C5 is beautifully covered by the pawn on B6. Antoinette potentially in a little bit of trouble again because she's also got less time.
That's true. But okay, I mean, it's not so easy to guard the seventh rank because there's rook c7 check now. And now I can take on h7 and take on e4. And suddenly life looks a little bit better.
Yeah.
But still, like, should be good for black because I can take on a3, I guess. But now at least there's knight f3. Maybe king e7 is a better option, not to run into the d4 check.
Yeah, that's a problem. Those knights have so many nice ideas when you're playing in bullet games.
In bullet games, it's good to change the knights with the bishops because the knights are the much more tricky pieces, actually.
Yeah, and Hikaru Nakamura mentioned something very interesting about that as well. He said that in bullet, the other thing is when you get to the very end of the game, I think he was specifically referring to 1-0 games or 2-0 games. If you have the knight, you can put your king on the opposite color of the bishop, and it gives you a big advantage if you're playing on the pre-moves.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite interesting. He said that for that reason, the knights are just dominant, and this knight looks dominant.
It looks like a mate already. Rook d7 mate or e7.
Rook d7 was a mate. I love it. Very pretty. And as you point out, was there another mate before that?
Rook d7 was mate as well. I mean, there were two mates.
The beauty of the knight in bullet. You can't stop it. You can't stop it. And you can't stop Antoaneta Stefanova today as she's got 16 points to 6. And we are in our last game as the clock is up. So congratulations to Antoaneta Stefanova for making it to the round of 8.
Yes, it
incredibly
was
well played.
Quite dominant performance.
That's true. That's true. Well done, Cori. I mean, well done, Stefanova, and well done, Cori, for obviously qualifying. I mean, that's incredibly hard. There were hundreds of people in each event, and she qualified against Valentina Gunina, one of the best players in her qualifier. So very, very tough order. Can she win the last game to salvage the score a little bit? I think she's got a good chance. She's got a really nice position here.
That's true, yeah. It looks better for white because of the space advantage. The only question is like, how weak is the e5 pawn, right? It can be super weak. It's even interesting to play f5 now. Okay, it would be hyper ambitious, but it was interesting. So now I'm a pawn down, but there are weaknesses. Even the e4 pawn is a quite annoying pawn. Puts f2 on a target. So who's playing tomorrow, actually?
Irina is playing her match against Nana Zagnidze, I believe.
Okay.
I think there may be 2 matches tomorrow, but we can look at the schedule. But yeah, Nana Zagnidze versus Irina Crash. Irina, I'll be interested to see what she comes up with because Nana is a very good blitz player. So that's going to be an underdog situation for Irina, who's a phenomenal classical player, but never been as well known for her blitz. But she's very competitive, so I'm sure she's working on it. Normally, I mean, don't forget for people watching who are maybe new to chess, like blitz never used to be worth as much as it has in recent years. Like it was great to be a good blitz player, but your classical rating was what got you accolades and invitations for the most part. Yeah. But with that changing, a lot of people are really taking a very serious effort to work on their blitz game.
Yes, okay. Now, especially during Corona times, online chess got a totally different meaning compared to some years before when we had a lot of OTB and also rapid and blitz events in live chess.
And nicely played here by Stefanova, who's getting a really beautiful position. I mean, this looks like speaking of classical chess, this looks like a classical game, but they're drawing, looks like they're repeating moves, and the match is over. Antoaneta Stefanova has won. This game will quickly be reset as they do not need to play this game. A 10-point lead by Antoaneta. Huge congratulations we're actually going to get set up to interview the players. But thanks for everybody for sticking with us. And please do stick around for those interviews, as we'll be right back with the Women's Speed Chess Championship. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Women's Speed Chess Championships. I'm Jennifer Shahadi, and I'm here with our champion today, Antoaneta Stefanova. Congratulations. What a match. Also, many thanks to Deysi Cori for playing such exciting chess. It certainly takes two to make for such thrilling games. So we appreciate you being here, Deysi. And Antoaneta, tell us a little bit. I mean, you played majestically today. It seemed like you played very practical blitz, really quick, really solid. And even when you were in trouble, you came back. How did you prepare today? What was your schedule like today? Did you do any chess or just mostly other activities?
Well, I don't like to give away my secrets, but yes, I did some chess today, some 1, 2 hours just to remember how the pieces move because I haven't played online tournament for quite a while. So I've been doing some puzzles in the last few days and just try to make my head work a little bit.
The puzzles, you play puzzles on the computer or like in books and with a real board?
Well, actually, I played on Chess.com. I played some rated puzzles there.
Ah, great.
Yes.
Very nice. And Lizzie was mentioning your pre-game preparation. Lizzie?
No, I just mentioned that actually I've never seen you in any tournament without your Coca-Cola.
Well, I am not without my Coca-Cola. Here it is. Do you see
So
it?
how important it is for you to drink Coca-Cola during the game and why you choose Coca-Cola and not, let's say, coffee when it is about the caffeine?
Well, because I don't drink coffee. It's very simple.
And what is your favorite time control in the Speed Chess Championships? Because you did really well in all of them.
Well, I don't know. I guess it's 3+1.
Oh, okay. Why 3+1?
I don't know. I just played more games with this time control, so I am more comfortable with it.
So when you're practicing in Blitz, you're usually playing 3 minute. And in general, you were up a lot of time on the clock in almost every game. Was that a pre-match strategy or was that just the way it happened?
No, it just happened like that. I mean, it's very difficult to have such a pre-match strategy because obviously when you play Blitz, you always think, okay, I have to play fast and not to blunder anything, right? But sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And today it did.
Were there any openings? Because you guys repeated a lot of the same openings today. Were there any that you felt a little bit uncomfortable with? Because you got a lot of good positions, particularly against the Scandinavian. It seems like you were always doing really well. Were there any that you were like, not so sure?
Well, no, I I don't know. I mean, probably if I check my games, I would discover that it didn't go all so smoothly as it felt during the match. But okay, I thought that okay, if it's going well, the score for me, then why to change? It's normally the one who is down in the score, he's the one changing the openings and the course of the match, right? So I left it for Daisy.
Well, next up, you're going to be playing the winner of the match between it was
Vashali against
Vashali and T, right?
Ginger.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's going to be about in a week, and I think in about a week, maybe 5 days from now. So can you tell us anything about your life outside chess these days? I know that you have a child and that you're involved in politics as well, right?
Yes, I was a parliament member in the last parliament, and actually we are now in election campaign because we have new elections in on the 11th of July. So I'm very happy that I'm going to quarterfinals, but I really have a lot of things to do in the campaign and traveling around Bulgaria, attending different events. I organized the youth festival last Sunday in Plovdiv, one city of Sofia, and then we're going to have another one in Sofia, and also tomorrow I'm going for another chess activity in another town. So It's a bit hectic, and I, well, I mean, chess is great, and I always love chess, and I will love chess, but it is not the main thing in my life right now.
And what's your campaign slogan, Antoaneta?
It's time for something else. Well, it sounds different in Bulgarian, of course.
It's time for something else. That's a great slogan for a lot of people's
It's
chess
shorter in
openings.
Bulgarian, but since we are a new party, and I hope we will bring the change that so many people want and expect from us. So
Well, beautiful. Good luck in both the next round here in the Women's Spades Chess Championships, and then, of course, in your political campaign as well. Lizzie, do you have any other questions for Antoaneta?
Oh, well, no, but since like she's a very close friend of mine, of course, I wish her a lot of luck and success for the ongoing matches.
thank you, Lizzie.
Good luck, Antoaneta. Great job today, and thank you so much to Deysi, Cori as well for being here. I know your performance today was not what you wanted, but I mean, from the qualifiers, you had one of the most thrilling finales, beating Valentina Gunina in the playoffs. So we are really excited to see you here, and wish you luck in all the rest of your events too. So thank you, everyone. And thank you to the listeners today, the viewers rather. We had so much fun. Thank you to Twitch Chat, to FIDE and Chess.com, and to our producer, Bigfoot. It was a blast. And we'll be back tomorrow with more Women's Speed Chess Championships.
Thank you.